Hello and welcome to Bedtime Stories. This is an early morning edition because yesterday I was going to record but I couldn't because I was still recovering from an allergic reaction due to my asshole neighbors smoking on their patio. This is a non-smoking apartment complex and I'm allergic to cigarette smoke, but does that stop them? No. Anyway, they weren't even on the patio. It was just a lingering miasma and I did not react well. So, and then once I was feeling better, I got all set up and I had the tablet and everything, my e-reader, and I woke up 6 hours later with it on my face. So I had a good nap, but nothing got recorded. But this is going to be a very special edition of Bedtime Stories because it is in the Like a House on Fire series that Carrie, Evan Takai, and Ginevra are doing on, and they've been posting about on the Discord and AO3, which is a lot of fun to listen to. Misery Smiles and I were like, you know what would be fun? What if we did a sort of, I don't know, I think Carrie was calling it a cold reads relay, but I was thinking like round robin sounded kind of fun. Anyway, where we take turns reading the chapters for a podfic. So I'm going to start out with the first chapter of the story, and then Misery House is going to do the next chapter. And this is written by Delicious Blizzard Shark. I got specific permission to do a 2 cakes version of this. There is already one podfic for the story, which is called You Are What You Eat. Let me back up. I got so excited I forgot to do the specific intro things. This is Bedtime Stories, which for me means live reaction, completely unedited, super chill, low stress as possible vibes. And I realized I've been forgetting to say the tagline that I specifically wrote for myself in my past few recordings, but the idea is we're just hanging out. And you hear what I hear, which I'm on my patio, so you're going to hear a bunch of big rig noises going by because I live next to a local highway. And you might hear Norbert. That's my emotional support kitty and production assistant because he's out here on the patio with me. But anyways, oh wait, one more important thing. I have autism and ADHD, and that is a communication disorder and an executive function disorder. So I get distracted very easily, especially by myself. Sometimes I go into chats or rants or tangents, and some people seem to like this, but if that's not your thing, you'll want to listen to the other podfic. Also, I have what I call spoken typos. Sometimes I say words just completely out of order, and a lot of the time I don't even notice. So, again, if that's going to bother you, this is not the reading style that you want. But having said all that, if you're still into the premise, you get comfy, and I am going to read you a story. I should probably hit the tags. This is going to be important. This story is a sort of a lukewarm read for me. It's going to be a cold read for Misery, but it's a lukewarm read for me because I read it some time ago and I remember the vibes, but not the specifics. And I remember really enjoying it. In fact, my bookmark for this says, hold on, let me scroll down. I said edit bookmark, I didn't say, yeah. My bookmark says, creepy as shit, and yet intensely romantic and funny. So, there is a lot of body horror and gore in this one. Alright, author's tags. The rating is explicit. There are graphic depictions of violence and major character death. The fandom is the Untamed. The relationship is Lan Wangji / Wuxian. Wangxian forever. Additional tags. Alternate universe, canon divergence. Eldritch. Hold on. Alright, just right in the middle of everything, I thought I knew how to say that word, and apparently I don't know how to say that word. We're going to look it up right from the start. Ooh, and we're trying out a little bit of a different setup today. I've got the story pulled up on a Chromebook and my e-reader propped up on the screen, so it's still got the same feel to it that I like, that I am reading to you from arm's length reading distance away. But I'm able to dedicate my tablet completely to the recording. And I've got the story pulled up like split screen, so it's in the mobile browser the same way that it appears on my tablet, because I've got my side scan worked up to do that just how I like. But I've got better access to the internet for looking things up, and I can keep my tablet on airplane mode, so the app won't auto update or do some weird shit on me. Just hate that. Alright, so the pronunciation is, if I turn my volume up apparently.
Eldritch.
Eldritch. That's the US pronunciation. And oh, sorry, when I say my Chromebook, I meant my roommate's Chromebook. I borrowed their Chromebook. One of my roommates has a Chromebook, and the other one has like a gaming laptop, and I don't get access to the gaming laptop very often. That's my cryptid roommate, but my asshole roommate, who's actually been way better now that we've socialized him a little more and taught him how to be a better roommate. Probably should find a new nickname for him, but asshole roommate has a Chromebook, and he's like, you know what, I think it's cool that you have this hobby and these passions, and if I ain't using it, you're welcome to the Chromebook. So that's what we're doing right now. Eldritch. By the way, that word means strange and frightening, if you've never come across it before. Okay, where were we? We were in the tags. Haven't even made it through the tags, and I'm already on a ramble. Okay. Eldritch Wei Wuxian, horny Lan Wangji, body horror, possession, of a sort, cannibalism, kind of, mild gore, teeth. When the eldritch abomination possessing you is less of a pining idiot than you are. I did not expect there to be so much fluff when I started writing a fic about an eldritch horror. Fluff and humor. Smut. Lanzhan is so fucking thirsty. Oral sex. Anal sex. Monster sex. Switching. Light BDSM. Rimming. I guess you write smut, you end up with all these sex tags. Self-lubrication. Seriousness treated crackly. That's the best crack treated seriously tag I've ever seen. Seriousness treated crackly. I guess that's a subgenre. Implied / referenced torture. Dead Wei Young, Wei Wuxian, and Podfic available. And now there's going to be more. This story was published back in 2021. It has 9 chapters and about 17.5K words. So my reading speed is about 100 words per minute. That's roughly 2K per chapter. So we're expecting at least 20 minutes per chapter that I read, plus, whatever rambles I go on. And no matter how many I say, it's going to be X minutes minimum. It's always like twice that because I talk. This is, okay, so I mentioned that I have autism. Also, I am just like, I'm queer. Like, many flavors thereof. Neuro, spicy, ace, and panro. But also, I am non-binary trans, so like, I don't know any of the details of my life, but one of the reasons I started podficking was because I am post-T, and my voice dropped significantly, and I'm still getting used to how that sounds and like leaning into it. And one of the things I've really found that I enjoyed is being able to voice characters of all gender ranges, because it's just so much fun, and I can do that now because I can, mimic what my voice used to sound like. Before I started T, my pitch was very high. I was like a soprano when I was in the choir, and I can lean into my normal voice for like narrator. and then I can drop it all the way down here for like when I'm doing long Wangji voices. So that's a lot of fun for me. I've really been enjoying getting into the voice acting aspect of podficking, which not everybody does, and that's cool. I also really enjoy the way that everybody does their podfic a little bit differently. There's so many varieties and versions. But what was the point of everything I was trying to say? Fuck a duck. I know I had something important-ish, like relevant. I forgot. Anyway, I've finally gotten through all the intro stuff. Timestamp 1040-ish. So here we go. I'm not going to read the summary because it's a quote from the story and we're going to get there soon. Author's note. I had a dream about being eaten by an eldritch being and promptly wrote this fic. It was going to be all angsty, and then I wrote it, and it wasn't. Anyway, mind the tags. This has got a lot of fluff and smut in it, but a number of people have told me they find it pretty disturbing, so please be careful. If you're looking for light-hearted Wangxian fun, the fics in my Soft Boy series are probably more your style. Side note, I can strongly emphasize that all of the author's fics are fun, but definitely some of them are more lighthearted than others. Although I would say that this fic does include soft ones here. Back to the author's note. I am not a Chinese person or person of Chinese descent, and if there are errors in my depictions of these characters and or culture, I appreciate and would... No. I got the words out of order that time, and I noticed. Errors in my depictions of these characters and or culture, I apologize and would appreciate any corrections. I also love constructive criticism, so if there's a way you think I could improve my work or something you particularly liked, don't be shy. Okay, actual timestamp for beginning chapter 1 is 12 minutes and 20 odd seconds. Chapter 1 entitled, I Just Woke Up Like This. When Wuxian wakes up, he is standing in the middle of a room, a sword, not his own, held in one hand, his clothes tacky with drying blood. Someone's crying. He blinks against the dim light, and slowly the room seems to resolve itself around him. He's in a prison, littered with dead bodies, splattered with blood. In front of him, a small figure huddles on the floor, another figure held in her arms. Wei Wuxian, she pleads again. The sound the sword makes when it clatters to the ground is surprisingly loud. Wei Wuxian opens his mouth to reply, or tries to. His lips are sealed together as if by the Lan's silencing spell, and then, like the spell releasing, they part. For a moment, the craziest idea crosses his head that there was no inside of his mouth until it opened, that he had no trachea, no lungs. Hi, Norbert. Oh my god, are you okay? Don't fall. There you go, buddy. You got it. All right. Norbert is now on top of the bookshelf. It's not a real bookshelf like being used for books. It is a set of shelves. We rescued it from next to the dumpster and use it as a Norbert perch on the patio. He likes to watch the neighbor dogs and birds and the stray cat go by. This paragraph where like his mouth was sealed shut and he didn't think he had it before, really strongly brings to mind to me that scene from the Keanu Reeves movie The Matrix, which by the way was my most watched movie of the late 90s and early 90s. I was Keanu Reeves and Neo was one of my first blorbos before I even knew what that word was, before I was an online presence. I can quote most of that movie still. Where was I? For a moment, the craziest idea crosses his head that there was no inside of his mouth until it opened, that he had no trachea, no lungs until the in-breath hollowed them, as if his body is still being made. He shoves the thought away and breathes in again. Speaks. "Wangji," he says, "what are you doing here?" Wen Chao discovered... Oh, my voice broke. Hold on, let me take a drink. Wen Chao discovered what Wen Yang and I did, Wen Qing says. He would have killed us, but Wen Rohan still needs me. Wei Wuxian's new eyes try to make out Wen Yang in the dark. He is cradled in his sister's lap, his skin bloodied and bruised. He waves his hand at their shackles, and they dissolve. Wen Qing gapes at him. "Wei Wuxian," she says, her voice now a whisper. "What happened to you?" Wei Wuxian shakes his head. "I don't know," he admits. Wen Qing bites her lip, then shakes her head. "We have to get out of here," she says. "Can you carry Wen Ning?" Wei Wuxian nods and lifts Wen Yang in his arms, as easily as if Wen Yang weighed nothing. Wen Qing stumbles through the dark corridors, her body clumsy and uncoordinated. She doesn't have the visible wounds Wen Yang does, but she must bear some damage, Wei Wuxian thinks. The office. By the way, I've been practicing a British accent for a fic in a different fandom that I'm working on, and I've been working on it so hard that I find myself code switching by accident sometimes. So if you hear me accidentally dropping into a British accent, that's why. It's not that I think that Wen Xiang speaks with a British accent. The office. They're in the Yiling supervisory office, Wen Xiang informs him, is littered with dead bodies, dripping with blood. Wei Wuxian has the insane desire to lick it up, to snack on the dead bodies, the calloused fingers, the tender ears. The hunger quickly turns to nausea. What a relatable neurodivergent feeling, yo. The hunger quickly turns to nausea, and he turns aside and feels his abdomen heave as if he's vomiting. But nothing comes up, not even bile. Note to self, tag a trigger warning for vomiting. Oh god. Sometimes just the word gives me the feeling. But then again, I spend most of my life at least vaguely or mildly nauseous, so I'm used to it. In the courtyard of the office, I would like to clarify that I think it's mostly a stress response, but possibly also some low-level allergies to food things that I just haven't identified or know about, and eat what I want anyway. In the courtyard of the office, likewise full of dead bodies, they encounter Jiangcheng and Lanshan with a phalanx. Phalanx? Hold on, I'm gonna look that word up. I know it means like a group, like a military. No, get out of it. I don't want the ads. I thought I had ad blocker turned on. What the fuck? Where's my ad blocker? Is this version of Chrome? So this Chromebook we picked up on eBay, for like $30. It used to, you can tell it used to be like an elementary school Chromebook, and it's so old that even updated to the most recent version of Chrome that it will host, it it keeps saying this app not supported by Chrome. Get the latest version of the browser. Learn more. And I'm like, I literally can't. You told me when I was setting up, because I helped him set it up. Like, you told me when I was setting up that this was the latest version of Chrome it would support. Now, apparently it does not support ad blocker. Bummer. All right. Anyway. We don't have time for the rant about ads being everywhere. Noun, a group of people. I know that.
Phalanx.
A large group of people standing very close to each other, usually for the purposes of defense or attack.
Phalanx.
Phalanx. Oh, I was saying that all
Phalanx.
kinds wrong. So US version is
Phalanx.
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 Phalanx. Okay. I like phalanx better, so I'm going to go with that. They encounter Jiangcheng and Lanshan with the phalanx of their disciples. By the way, that was the dictionary.cambridge.org website, which I like because I think it's funny to compare the US versus UK pronunciations. At the sight of Lanshan, something strange moves inside of Wei Wuxian, and he can't help the smile that splits his face. Lanshan, he exclaims, and he finds himself dumping Wan Young in Jiangcheng's arms and flinging his arms around the other boy. Lanshan's body is stiff and still beneath his. Unexpected contact. Error 404. Wei Wuxian, Jiangcheng scolds behind him. What the hell do you think you're doing? Stop assaulting Lanar Gongsa. But remarkably, one of Lanshan's arms, the one not holding his sword, wraps around Wei Wuxian's back, and Lanshan says into Wei Wuxian's hair, not an assault. Yes! Oh my god, the Wangxian hug starts early in this one. There's a hitch in his voice. Okay, there's a hitch in his voice. Let's try that again. Not an assault. And Wei Wuxian pulls back far enough to see Lanshan's face, to see Lanshan's soft eyes and parted lips and tiny smile. Oh, brought to us all by Wang Yibo, the micro-expression king. Wei Yong, you're alive, Lanshan says, like it's the most wonderful thing he's ever heard, like it's a fucking miracle, and his arm is still around Wei Wuxian, and Wei Wuxian can't help it. He really can't. He closes the few inches between them and presses his lips against Lanshan's. They kiss. They kiss. Oh my god. Like, picture me doing arms up, touchdown victory pose. Oh, one of my jams just came on my playlist. I listen to songs in my headphones most of the time when I'm recording. It helps me stay more focused on what I'm doing than get distracted by all the ambient noises. And so, Kesha, Crazy Kids just came on. I'm going to drop this in the bonus material. I don't know if it's exactly the vibe for this song, but it's a fucking banger, and I'm like dancing in my chair right now. Okay, he closes the few inches between them and presses his lips against Lanshan's. He feels like something is rising up through him, a lantern ascending, all wonder and light. It's a short kiss. Oh, hi, Norbert. Did y'all just hear Norbert land on the table? It's a short kiss and an unpracticed one, just the press of his lips. But Wei Wuxian is panting when he steps away, and Lanshan's ears have turned red. Wei Wuxian smiles at him, nods his head, and Lanshan nods back and lets his arm fall from Wei Wuxian, lets his hand slip down his back and waist and thigh, and then fall away. Lanshan was like, I am not wasting this opportunity in case it's never granted to me again, and I am going to grope every inch on the way down. He got a nice handful. Everyone is staring gaping at them. Jiang Cheng doesn't even seem to realize Wan Yong's head is lolling unconscious on his shoulder. Okay, so that word, which I know existed long before the advent of LOL for us geriatric millennials, being overused. I have just searched up lolling, and the first entry in the dictionary was LOL, which is the abbreviation for laugh out loud, to laugh at something because you think it's very funny. I use LOL in my daily speech just as much as I use the word fuck, which is a lot, by the way, because I curse like a sailor. And it's just, it smatters through my speech when I'm trying to lighten the mood a little bit. Like I say something really serious and then I'm like, lol, LOL. But the other version is past simple and past participle of LOLL, which is a verb to sit, lie, or hang down in a relaxed, informal, or uncontrolled way.
Lol.
And that is pronounced
Lol.
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 Lol. So Wan Young's head is lolling unconscious on his shoulder, which means basically he's just like limp, hanging there. Wei Wuxian looks back at Lan Zhan and notices he's gotten blood all over Lan Zhan's white robes and resists the urge to try and wipe it off. Hold on, cough. You really thought I was dead, huh? Wei Wuxian asks, grinning at Jiang Cheng. He spins around and holds out his arms. But here I am, good as new. Wei Wuxian, Jiang Cheng barks. Did you kill all these people? I need you to know that when I speak for Jiang Cheng, I hold my abdomen tighter because he yells all the time. And push my voice out more emphatically with my diaphragm and stuff. Wei Wuxian frowns at him. He looks at the dead bodies piled in the courtyard. I don't know. You don't. Jiang Cheng repeats, confused. I just woke up like this, Wei Wuxian says. I love the way that phrase was used in the, the meme, I just woke up like this, to mean someone is got that casually fabulous, they've got that one fit. They've got all the, what's the slang? They've got all the dip, all the drip, all the drip. They've got all the drip. And their makeup is that barely there, that looks so flawless, but they spent an hour on it at least. Jiang Cheng glares at Wan Qiang. What happened? He demands. She shakes her head. It happened so fast, she says. I was trying to keep An Young alive. Jiang Cheng's gaze goes to the boy. He seems to suddenly realize he's holding, and he carefully lowers him to the ground. What happened to him? He asks. One Argongs, Wan Qiang says. Lan Zhan swoops down beside Jiang Cheng. Oh, that's the half-hour mark. I told you we'd have at least 20 minutes. Lan Zhan swoops down beside Jiang Cheng like a white crane landing and takes his wrist. Is there anything we can do? He asks Wan Qiang. We have medical supplies. Lan Argongs, he's a one of the Lan disciples protests. Is it Susha? 'Cause fuck you. He was a one prisoner, Jiang Cheng snaps back at him. An enemy of our enemy. Yes, Wan Qiang says. Any medical supplies you have. Where was I?
Would it help to feed him some qi?
Lan Shan asks, like the wonderful and generous person he is. You can tell that Wei Wuxian is the one whose narrative point of view this is tracking. If Lan Argongsu doesn't mind, Wan Xiong says, accepting the Qi and Kun pouch from the chastised. While she's occupied with treating her brother, Lan Shan, with feeding him Qi, and the disciples with searching the office, Jiang Cheng rounds on Wei Wuxian. What the hell was that? Jiang Cheng demands. Wei Wuxian scratches his neck. Eh? What? He asks. You kissed Lan Argongzi, Jiang Cheng hisses, in front of 40 people. Half of them were dead, Wei Wuxian says, gesturing around the bodies. I don't think they're going to notice. I mean, well, he didn't say notice, oops. I don't think they're going to talk. He didn't push you away, Jiang Cheng says. Wei Wuxian looks at him with shock. Of course not, he exclaims. Why would he? Because he barely tolerates you, Jiang Cheng says. Wei Wuxian snorts and crosses his arms. That's clearly not the case, he says. Anyway, he continues, rubbing his nose. Why would you think that? We're very close. I need y'all to know that when Wei Wuxian rubs his nose and does his little Wei Wuxian gestures, I am also doing them. Jiang Cheng spluttered for a moment. Are you saying that you and Lan Argongzi? He finally manages to ask. Wei Wuxian sticks his nose in the air. I don't see how it's any of your business, he says. Hey, is that my sword? He asks, plucking the Sui Bian out of Jiang Cheng's belt. He unsheathes the sword and dances his way through the sword form for a minute, then grins at it. Cool, he says, before sheathing it and tossing it over his shoulder. Wei Wuxian, Jiang Cheng gasps. What? Wei Wuxian asks. It's not like I can use it. What do you mean you can't use it? Jiang Cheng grits out. I don't have a golden core, Wei Wuxian says, casually. Like, what? Like it's hard. Very, very legally blonde. That mannerism. What? Like it's hard? I don't have a golden core. Wei Young, Lan Zhan exclaims, staring up at Wei Wuxian from where he's kneeling on the ground beside Wan Yang. Oh, don't worry about it, Lan Zhan, Wei Wuxian says. I don't need it anymore. He's so devil-may-care, blasé, nonchalant about it all. What do you mean you don't need it anymore? Jiang Cheng demands. Jiang Cheng, you're much stupider than I remember, Wei Wuxian says. I mean, I don't need it. I can fight perfectly well without it. Look, he says, and slashes his hand at a stone bench on the other side of the courtyard. The bench breaks in half cleanly and then collapses. See, he says, I'm much stronger than any cultivator now. Ooh, another good song with this vibe just came on. It's called Tired of Problems, and the lead artist is Nueki. I think that's how you say the band name. Excuse me. Wei Yong, Lan Zhan says softly, slowly, standing up. Again, Wei Wuxian is struck by his incredible beauty, the way all his breath seems sucked out of him when he sees him. Lan Zhan, he finds himself gasping, barely restraining himself from throwing him in his arms again. What happened to you? Lan Zhan asks. Wei Wuxian opens his mouth, but nothing comes out? He shakes his head. For a moment, there are brief flashes: teeth, hunger, terrible pain. But then, mercifully, they're gone. I don't know, Wei Wuxian laughs. You were supposed to meet me in Yiling, Jiang Cheng says, after he blanches. You, excuse me. Wei Wuxian, Jiang Cheng, Wei Wuxian exclaims back. See, I know your name too. Where did my golden core come from? Jiang Cheng says, his voice surprisingly quiet. Oops, okay, quiet. Where did my golden core come from? Jiang Cheng asks, his voice surprisingly quiet. Wei Wuxian laughs again. I guess maybe you're not so stupid, he says. It's mine, of course. I've got the scars to prove it. He begins to undo his belt, but Lan Zhan grabs his wrist. Wei Wuxian pouts at him. You don't want to see? He asks. But I'm so pretty, Lan Zhan. He leans into the other boy's face. Don't you want to see how pretty I am? Wei Yong, Lan Zhan chokes out, his hand tightening on Wei Wuxian's wrist so hard it begins to hurt. Wei Wuxian, the core, Jiang Cheng persists. Wei Wuxian turns his pout on him. Jiang Cheng, he says, you're still on about that. It's easy. I didn't need it as much as you did. I owed your family a debt. I lied to you about Bao Sanren. Really, Jiang Cheng, I can't believe you fell for that. Wen Jiang here did the core transfer. You got a golden core. I was captured by Wen Xiao. His face fell, and he pressed his hand, the one Lan Zhan wasn't gripping so hard his bones would have broken if he'd had any, to his chest. Wen Xiao, he murmurs, but he shakes his head. It's fine, he says. Everything's fine now. Wei Yong, how could you? Lan Zhan demands. Wei Yong, how could you? Lan Zhan demands, his face a mix of anger and pain. Wei Wuxian rests his free hand on Lan Zhan's cheek. It was so easy, he says. Love is so easy. I had no idea. I thought it was hard and embarrassing and awkward, and he smiles. I'm such an idiot. Will you forgive me? Lan Zhan releases his wrist, steps back, all sorts of emotions chasing across his face. What happened to you? Jiang Cheng demands. Wei Wuxian sighs. I already said I don't know. This conversation is so boring, he says. I'm hungry. Can't we get some food? They're all too dead to be tasty, he adds, flicking a hand at the dead one guards. What? Jiang Cheng exclaims, horrified. Wei Wuxian turns to see equally horrified looks on Wen Qiang and Lan Zhan's faces. What? He asks. And that's the chapter end. Your first hint that, not your first hint, but a solid hint that Wei Wuxian went into the dungeon and did not come back the same. Unfazed reference to cannibalism and the fact that it's too dead to be tasty. So I guess whatever eldritch horror he's become eats like a vulture, where they prefer it to be still a little bit alive or very freshly dead. Ooh, here's another good song for this. Coming Undone by Korn. Okay, so Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Bedtime Stories. I am going to send Misery the G Drive link as soon as I get this converted to MP3 so that they can listen to it and um, do their little reaction bit. Because I'm pretty sure we also decided that part of each successive chapter was going to be our reactions to the previous chapter. If we didn't decide that, and I hallucinated that part of the conversation, I'm officially suggesting it now. And then I'm going to work on the Tumblr post and the AO3 shell so we can get this live in everyone's ears. Yeah. All right. So, once again, thanks for listening to this episode of Bedtime Stories, and I hope to be back real soon. Okay. Hello and welcome to Bedtime Stories. Wow, y'all, it has been such a morning for me. It has been. Anyway, I am looking to reclaim a little bit of joy by reading to you Chapter 3 of Delicious Blizzard Sharks. You are what you eat. I'm doing this in a sort of round robin relay read with my friend Misery. That's XX Misery Smiles XX on Tumblr and AO3. Wow, losing my words too. Anyhow, so last night I was at the laundromat doing laundry, and Misery tells me, "Oh, I posted chapter 2, by the way." I'm like, so excited, right? I'm going to interrupt my own story. I've been trying out new warm beverages to sip on while I'm reading, because, the warm beverage helps your voice and your throat and all. But apparently warm beverages with milk make throat clickies worse. I'm trying to avoid those. So I made like a warm apple cider caffeinated beverage with a vanilla chai tea bag and half apple juice on top. So it's kind of like a mulled cider, tasty. So it's like, you know what? Let's branch out. We could try other things. Today's beverage is the same vanilla chai black tea base, but with cranberry pomegranate juice on top. And I gotta say, I am a fan. I might make it again on purpose one day. Okay, so last night I was at the laundromat, and I get this message about the story from Misery, and I go to read it, and it's laundry folding time, and may I mention that I was the last patron at the laundromat, and I wound up being the asshole that kept them there longer than they really had to be, although I would like to point out it was not past closing. It was just past the time they were accepting new patrons. They had locked the outside door. Because, I was folding all my clothes before I went home. Because, God forbid, I make it home with my clothes unfolded. They will never get folded. They must be folded immediately, warm, when they come out of the dryer, or they just live in a pile of wrinkles until they get washed again after being warm. That is just the way it works for me. So anyway, there I am listening to Misery's recording, and because I had forgotten to bring my e-reader to the laundromat, I didn't have anything to record on, because my phone mic is actually shitty compared to my e-reader mic. And I really just like the sound quality better on my e-reader. So there I was, folding like a towel, stopped to make a comment. And it took me so long to get my laundry folded. And the attendants were kind of just like hovering. Like, wow. I feel kind of like a jerk, but I had important things to do. So, I really enjoyed Misery's reading of Chapter 2. I knew I was going to enjoy it, and I was so right. And it started off when in the notes, Misery called me their butterfly friend, which is like the coolest nickname I've ever had. I like that so much. Please continue to use it. A selection of my comments from Misery's reading of Chapter 2. I absolutely love it when Misery starts their fix with, "What's up, Insomniacs?" So I'm officially, that's your brand now, Misery. That's what I'm calling your podfix. Like, my whole podfic concept is bedtime stories. Yours is "What's up, Insomniacs?" Um, I do agree that it's important that you read the tags, especially on this particular story. I do not agree that your giggle is annoying, and frankly, I find Giggly You delightful and adorable. Hard agree, Wei Wuxian is a manic pixie dream girl. When you said Jiang Shang lost his opportunity to be emo, I was cackling. Let's see. Wangxian. Freak for freak. I don't know if I would call that something wrong with them, but that's definitely what's going on. A spec solidarity, yes. I might be like completely uninterested in sex for myself, like in a physical action for me, but I love it when my borbos are getting fucking nasty and sweet about it. Yes, and we all know you like Neo High Song. If we didn't know, we were not paying attention. I totally think we should advertise your Mo Dao Zu Shi and OC's story, your lore animatics. I'm planning to drop the link because they're incredible and more people should know about it. The Dizu, that flute, the is called Chongqing, and there's a whole really cool lore bit attached to the name of it, um, which I'm planning to make into a little podlet on Tumblr as part of the bonus features. You talked about the Chinese violin, and I'm pretty sure that's either called the pipa or the erhu. Um, I think the erhu was the one played with the strings, but I did not have a time for a research deep dive last night, and I don't have one this morning if I'm going to get the story done. By the way, this is Bedtime Stories, the AM version, because I got woken up stupid early and I'm cranky about it. I'm trying to improve my mood by reading. I was happy for you that you got to read the Nia Huaisong character interactions because you love him so much. Lan Wangji is a desperate, thirsty, horny boy who is lying to himself and everyone else about how much he doesn't want Wei Wuxian. I did a little happy dance when you made a John Mulaney reference because he is my favorite comedian. The thing with Lan Wangji and the potato, when he carved a dildo to practice, to experiment, is my dick too big to swallow easily? And the answer is yes. What a scientifically minded experiment. Way to go. I also really enjoyed your reading of Lan Wangji realizing that Wei Wuxian's not quite human and just decides to roll with it because of the high quality banging going on. Also, I really do think that monster fucking is such a fun subgenre. Like, monstrously more than human creatures, beings, people deserve love too. And, like, aside from the philosophical aspects of monster fucking stories, they're trans allegories, they're disabled person allegories. It's very easy for especially a trans disabled or neurodivergent person and or to project themselves onto the creatures and the beings and stories that are seen as outsiders or less than human or more than human. And treated differently because of that, held to different standards. It's so satisfying to see them having adventures and getting love too. But aside from those philosophical details, I really enjoy also like the anatomy fuckery going on, which is why I love Mermaid. Mermaid is one of my favorite fandom events. I'm just gonna throw that out there. If anyone would like to recommend their favorite mermaid themed fics for me to do as a podfic, I've got a couple like lined up in my queue, but I'm happy to advance them if somebody wants to get excited about one with me. Also, sleep only when the flesh runs out of battery power and literally shuts down on me. Which is why I laugh every time you say "What's up, Insomniacs?" because it's so apt for me. All right, timestamp 10 minutes. That's the intro. This is me reading chapter 3, Poof. Wei Wuxian wakes up, screaming. Wakes up to Lan Zhan shaking him, calling his name. Lan Zhan is naked beside him. Sorry, I resized the window and changed the zoom, and it fucking changed positions on me again. I promise one day I will do that before I start reading, and it won't be an issue, but today was not that day. Lan Zhan is naked beside him. Wei Wuxian rolls over and buries his head in Lan Zhan's muscular shoulder. He's naked too, he notices. His cock is naked. His cock is recovering quickly from his nightmare. Lan Zhan's muscular shoulder has quite a few bite-mark bruises on it. Delicious. Lan Zhan, Wei Wuxian says. His voice is rasping. Ooh, let's try that again. Lan Zhan. His cock is rubbing against Lan Zhan's naked thigh. What did you dream? Lan Zhan asks, rubbing circles into Wei Wuxian's naked back. I dreamt. Wei Wuxian trails off. I dreamt I was being eaten, he says. Then he laughs and turns his head and nips at Lan Zhan's chest. And not in a sexy way. I dreamt, Wei Wuxian adds, that I was eating someone. They were so delicious. They were so full of love. He lifts his head up, looks at Lan Zhan. Both were me, he says. The one eating, the one being eaten. And then he laughs again, nips at Lan Zhan again. Kind of like last night, he teases. And this morning, Lan Zhan says solemnly. This morning? Wei Wuxian asks, grinning up at him. That's a great way to start the day and get over a nightmare. A little bit of your everyday. Wei Wuxian is kneeling over Lan Zhan's face, thrusting his cock into his mouth, when a voice outside Lan Zhan's room calls, Wangji? Oh no, it's brother. It's Zishi. It's Xiangxiang. Fucking hell, Wei Wuxian murmurs, then calls back, in what he imagines is a fairly good impression of Lan Zhan's voice. I am currently occupied. You missed breakfast. It's Lan Zishin, Wei Wuxian thinks. I will be available in 15 minutes, Wei Wuxian says in Lan Zhan's voice. Sorry, I started that one off in Zishin and rolled into Lan Zhan's again. I will be available in 15 minutes, Wei Wuxian says in Lan Zhan's voice. Lan Zhan is looking up at him with wide eyes. Tap out if you want to stop, Wei Wuxian whispers to him. Lan Zhan does not tap out. Was anyone surprised? We were not surprised. They wipe each other down and help each other dress, and Lan Zhan emerges first to see if Lan Zixin is still waiting for him. He is. Wei Wuxian hears him, and Lan Zhan talking softly outside the room. So Wei Wuxian sneaks out through the back. Jiang Cheng spots him crossing the courtyard to the rooms assigned to the Jiang sect. I would call this a walk of shame, except that Wei Wuxian has no shame about this whatsoever in this story. What do we call it then instead? The walk of, I should probably put on clean robes before getting breakfast. Okay, side note. The next person speaking is Jiang Cheng, and he's going to say a phrase. But every time I see this particular phrase, I am transported back to the first time I saw the Harry Potter movie and Molly Weasley sent the howler to Ron, and she goes, "Ronald Weasley, where have you been?" Or something like that. So every time I see this phrase, that's how I want to pronounce it. The struggle is real. Okay. Where have you been? Jiang Cheng demands. With Lan Zhan, Wei Wuxian replies, grinning. Jiang Cheng, you'd never believe how big Lan Zhan's dick is. Jiang Cheng's eyes bulge out. You! He exclaims. What? Wei Wuxian asks, confused. It's delicious, too, he says, licking his lips. You didn't, Jiang Cheng begins. He swallows. You didn't eat Wangji's penis, did you? Valid point of concern based on recent things that Wei Wuxian has said and done. How do you mean? Wei Wuxian asks. I swallowed it a number of times, but I didn't digest it, if that's what you're asking. Gross! Jiang Cheng cries, turning red. I can't believe you're so shameless. Why? Wei Wuxian asks. I have a reputation for being shameless. Anyway, what's there to be ashamed about? We both enjoyed it. Lan Zhan really enjoyed it. The sounds he made. Stop telling me about this, Jiang Cheng shouts. What if people overheard you? We used silencing talismans, Wei Wuxian says, pouting a little. Lan Zhan insisted. No, right now, Jiang Cheng says. Wei Wuxian shrugs. Why should I care? He's like, I had fun last night, and I think everyone should know about it. I'm proud of it. Wei Wuxian is like, no slut shaming in this house. What if Jie overheard you? Jiang Cheng demands. Wouldn't she be glad for me? Wei Wuxian asks. Because I found someone to share pleasure with? Valid point. Jiang Cheng has no response to this, only stands there with a red face, scowling at him. Satisfied he's won, Wei Wuxian wanders off in search of breakfast. Honestly, I think JJ would pat him on the head. That whole setup where he's got his head in her, on her knees. He's kneeling and she's sitting and she's just patting him. And she's like, Shan Shan is only 3. And he's like, not today. Today, Shan Shan is grown up enough to have adventures of a grown-up nature. Perhaps he wouldn't tell Xie in detail the same way he's telling Jiang Cheng. But perhaps he would, this new version of Wei Wuxian might not have the same societal programming about what is and what is not polite to talk about with in mixed company, especially to your older sister / mother figure. Maybe he would think it's important for her to know what makes good sex so that she can know for her marriage, because oh my god, I think that proper, and by proper I mean with real world experience thrown in and not just people's prejudices and biases about the act. Like proper, clear sex ed, not just anatomy drawings, but like if it doesn't feel good, probably something's not right. And if your partner is not trying to make you feel good, they're a selfish asshole, you should have a discussion and perhaps move on. And, I think people should bang before they get married, because if you get married and you have never had sex before and neither of you are good at it or practiced, good at sex is such a subjective qualifier anyway. But if neither of you have had practice practically in the act of having sex and it doesn't go well, and you wind up with a selfish person who doesn't take care of you, who doesn't know about aftercare or believe in aftercare, just all this sort of stuff that comes from not having a proper sexual education, even down to the, hey, people who are AFAB tend to get urinary tract infections, especially their first time with a new partner, because of bacteria and shit getting introduced into areas. That's important stuff that people need to know. And then you go to the doctor and they're like, what, you were surprised? And it's like, yeah, I fucking was. I'm sorry. This story really is from my personal experience. I am projecting so hard. Let's get back to the fic. He's still picking feathers out of his teeth. Next time, he won't bother chewing when Nia Huaisong finds him. Wei Xiong, he calls, mincing across the battlefield, scaring away a few crows. What are you doing here? Breakfast? Wei Wuxian replies. Nia Huaisong shudders delicately. You're not eating the bodies? He asks, excuse me. Wei Wuxian laughs. Of course not, he says. They're far too old. I like my meat much fresher. I wonder if that has anything to do with the level of life force left in the meat. Like, the more freshly dead something is, like the soul still attached to it, perhaps. There's more energy transfer able to go on. Perhaps also the flavor is affected, but as a supernatural creature of some sort now, I bet Wei Wuxian's eating tastes are influenced by how much energy transfer is going on between him and the food. Mm. So, Nia Huaisong says, if they were newly killed, you'd eat them? Wei Wuxian considers. He's like, your question was too vague. Be more specific. How newly killed? Still warm? Nia Huaisong hesitates, then nods. Wei Wuxian sighs. Probably not, he says. They're too big and muscular. Tough. Maybe just the tender bits. Nia Huaisong shudders Nia Huaisong shudders delicately. I know you don't remember what happened to you, he begins, but Jiang Xiong says you were able to crush a bench at a distance. Oh, that? Wei Wuxian asks as he shrugs. Easy. Do you want to see? He raises a hand. No, Nia Huaisong says, hiding behind his fan. But perhaps you could show Dago what you can do, so he can take it into account when he makes his strategies? Wei Wuxian snaps his fingers, and Nia Huaisong flinches. Of course! I'll go to them right now. They'll need me if they want to win the war, he adds confidently, striding across the battlefield, Nia Huaisong running to catch up. Do you know, I think I have not been noting scene changes or scene breaks just because my sight scan is not showing them for this particular chapter. Because, like, there's larger breaks between the paragraphs, but no, like, little dividers. What happens if I open this up in an incognito tab? Yes, I might see adult content. Thank you for the heads up. I concur. I consent. Thank you. Oh no. No section breaks, like with markers. I think just the spaces. Okay, that's cool then. Wei Wuxian blasts into the meeting because this bitch loves a dramatic entrance. He looks over at Lanjian and winks at him. Lanjian's ears turn red, and he looks down at his feet. Hey guys, Wei Wuxian says. How are things going with the war anyway? I forgot to ask before. He goes to the map table, ignoring the bloodstains, and idly picks up one of the markers. That whole puppet thing still causing problems? He asks. Wei Gongsu, Lan Zixin says, as polite as ever. Zewa Jun, Wei Wuxian exclaims. Zewa Jun, does it run in the family? What? Lan Zixin asks. Just as Lan Zhan says, in the most scandalized voice Wei Wuxian has ever heard from him, Wei Yin! Wei Wuxian looks at him, pouting, but Lan Zhan meets his eyes and shakes his head. Lan Wangji put his foot down. Wei Wuxian puts down the marker. I can fix it, he says casually. He nudges the marker over a little so it's back where it started. The puppet problem, he clarifies. Lan Zhan doesn't need fixing. He's perfect. Chef's kiss, right? Lan Zixin's eyes flick between Wei Wuxian and Lan Zhan, a horrified expression growing on his face. Ooh, I've never voiced Nia Mingju in a fic before. How are we going to pitch it? What's his cadence? How are you going to fix it? Nia Mingju demands. Wei Wuxian is momentarily taken aback by how strong and muscular Nia Mingju is. He licks his lips. That mustache, though. Honestly, that's how I feel about Daga, too. Wei Wuxian, Jiang Cheng prompts. Wei Wuxian shakes his head. Right, the puppets, no problem. I'm very powerful now, you know. Wangji says you no longer have a golden core, Lan Zixin says. Nope, Wei Wuxian says. Gave it away. Glad I did, too. It wouldn't have survived. Well, it's unnecessary. I'm already immortal. What would I need a golden core for? Just casually drop that into the conversation. A few of the people around him make gasping noises. Everyone stares. They're all like clutching their pearls in shock and awe. Wei Wuxian looks at them confused. What? He asks finally. You just claimed to be immortal, Jiang Cheng says. So? Wei Wuxian asks. I'm pretty sure I am. I haven't tested it yet, though. We should test it. Hey, Jiang Cheng, try to kill me. Do not, Lan Zhan exclaims quickly. Wei Wuxian sticks his tongue out at him. You're no fun, he complains. There is no need. Oops, sorry, my voice broke a little bit. Let me drink. Let's try that again. There is no need, Lan Zixin says, folding his hands into his sleeves. We are in the middle of a war. Plenty of people will be trying to kill you all too soon. Good point, Wei Wuxian says.
How did you attain immortality?
Nia Mingju asks skeptically. We went over this yesterday, Wei Wuxian says. I don't remember. Then how do you know you're immortal? Jin Zishuan demands. It's just a feeling I have, Wei Wuxian says. You just feel immortal, so you want me to try to kill you? Jiang Cheng asks. Yeah, Wei Wuxian says. Lan Chan makes a small, indecipherable noise. Not you, Lan Chan, he can't help saying. You already tried to kill me several times this morning. Lan Chan's ears, impossibly, grow a deeper shade of red. Jiang Cheng snorts and flushes. Lan Zixin sighs, a little dramatically in Wei Wuxian's opinion, and closes his eyes. Wei Gongse, he says, how are you planning on dealing with the puppets? Oh yeah, Wei Wuxian says. Easy, poof. He holds up both his hands and opens them dramatically as he says this. Poof, Jin Zishuan repeats. No. No, Wei Wuxian corrects, laughing. Poof. He makes the hand gesture again. And what is poof? Lan Zixin asks. You don't get it, Wei Wuxian insists. Poof. So every time Wei Wuxian says this, it's in italics, and the other characters are not italicizing it. And in the next little bit, Lan Zhan says it with the italics. I wonder if he does the hand gesture too. Oh, he does. I'm sorry, my eyes didn't go far enough.
Perhaps you could demonstrate. Poof,
Lan Zhan suggests. Wei Wuxian giggles when he makes the right hand gesture. What a champ. Get you a man. Lan Zhan, you can't poof inside, Wei Wuxian scolds him.
Let us go to the training fields then, and you can show us,
Lan Zhan suggests. We don't have any puppets, Jin Zishuan says. That's not important, Wei Wuxian says, skipping over to Lan Zhan and taking his hand. Let's go. Lan Zhan looks at his hand and then lets him tug him out of the meeting room. Lan Zhan's like, public hand holding versus the indignity of being tugged along like a toddler on a leash. And you know what won out? Public hand holding. The training fields are full of soldiers and disciples practicing archery and sword forms, but they all go still when they see the sect leaders and heirs and associates stride into the middle of the fields, Wei Wuxian and Lan Zhan still holding hands leading the procession. What should I poof? Wei Wuxian asks Lan Zhan. Your virginity? No, I did that last night.
Wei Young,
Lan Zhan hisses. Wei Young! Lan Zhan hisses, horrified, looking around, but everyone is busy not making eye contact. If anyone had their doubts about what was going on in their room last night, they no longer have doubts. I bet Nia Mingju is like looking at him. Because, so Lan Wangji in this verse is probably more like a little brother to him. Not like Huai Song is, but, he's besties with Lan Zixin or whatever threesome has going on. And so Wangji would also have been a part of his life. And he's probably looking at Lan Wangji and be like, I didn't know you had it in you. Good for you, bro. Good for you. Huaisong is probably proud of them too. Huaisong probably wants an in-person demonstration. Because he is a kinky little slut. I love that about him. In my head canon. And I meant that very positively. Perhaps Wei Gongzi could demonstrate on these mannequins, Lan Zixin suggests after a moment. What mannequins? Wei Wuxian asks innocently. Those over there, Lan Zixin says, turning to point, and then blinks. The mannequins are gone. Poof, Wei Wuxian says, hanging on Lan Zhan's arm. You, Jin Zixuan says. He swallows. What are you? Silly peacock, Wei Wuxian says. I'm Wei Wuxian. Wei Young, what did you do to the mannequins? Lan Zhan asks, adding quickly, don't say poof. Wei Wuxian rubbed his nose. It's hard to explain, he says. They're not here anymore. Isn't that the important thing? The puppets, Lan Zhan says. They're not volunteers. Eh? Wei Wuxian asks. If possible, you should make sure their souls survive, Lan Zhan says, so they can reincarnate. Ah, Wei Wuxian says. He frowns. So perhaps no poof. Perhaps squish would be better. Those trees? Lan Zhan suggests, pointing. Wei Wuxian nods, and suddenly the trees are flattened. Lan Zixin makes a strangled noise. I'm sure that would do fine, he says. What else can you do? Jiang Zheng asks. Wei Wuxian shakes his head. What else do you want me to do? Jiang Zheng doesn't answer, so Wei Wuxian raises his arms, and suddenly all the swords are torn from the grasps of the cultivators in the field and lifted into the air, forming an enormous metallic star in the air above them, so large it casts a shadow around them. Holy shit. Wangji, mark me down as scared and horny. Wei Young, Lan Zhan murmurs, and Wei Wuxian lowers his arms, the swords pelting back to earth, to the hands of their owners. Everyone is staring at Wei Wuxian again. Is it enough? Wei Wuxian asks. Will it win the war? Nia Mingju nods numbly. Good, Wei Wuxian says, tugging at Lan Zhan's hand, because all I really want to do right now is go have sex with Lan Zhan. Lan Zhan makes a strangled noise, but allows himself to be pulled away. And that's the end of the chapter. Because he's got priorities. I bet the next chapter is from his POV again. That'll be fun. Okay, so thanks for tuning in to this chapter of Bedtime Stories. I don't know if it's just me, but the highway seems especially noisy this morning, so I hope that the big rigs and the motorcycles going by weren't too distracting to detriment of your enjoyment of the story. Anyway, I'm going to get this converted to MP3 and uploaded, and we'll tag Misery for the next chapter. Okay, welcome back to Bedtime Stories. I have been trying to read chapter 5 of this all fucking day, and most of yesterday, actually. and things have just not been cooperating. But here we are. Let's see. I am on my patio. I have some warm tea that I have cooled to the perfect temperature. You're going to hear some noises probably as I am adjusting the positioning of my tablet. I'm trying a new setup today. I was recommended to use sort of a DIY microphone isolation setup to see if that would decrease background noise and improve sound quality. So I would appreciate everyone's feedback if you notice any difference between this recording and previous recordings, especially regarding highway noise. Also, it's very humid here today, and there's been lightning, possible thunderstorms, so you might hear some thunder. Norbert is outside with me. He is a little cranky because he was trying to hunt a frog earlier and it hid under the fridge. He has been deprived of his prey. He's upset by this. So that set the scene, I think. Yeah. Let's see. I listened to Misery's reading of chapter 4 on Saturday, March the 29th. And I have been trying to do my reply to it ever since. But IRL has been fucking wilding for me, y'all. Also, if you're wondering why I'm not on Discord or Tumblr this week, it's because I am taking a break. My therapist made me promise not to be in my Discord servers or on my blog this week because my tendencies to prioritize external validation over internal validation, and the reason I had to quit Facebook and shit, because I was focusing too much on my online presence instead of my IRL relationships. Whatever. So I promised that, but I made no promises regarding recording and posting podfics, and interacting with people in the comments section. So, so my comments to Misery on chapter 4 were lots of hearts and sparkles for Welcome Back Insomniacs. I love that every time. The meme you referenced is perfect for this story. I really do like good, clear expectation settings talk in any life situation, but especially shipping. Wuxian is adorable, and they're adorable together, and I love it. This is directed specifically to Misery. You are not annoying, and your joy brings me joy. And when Wangji said, I was thinking of you, and I smiled, I was like slayed by the sincerity. Oh. And then their little punishment and aftermath scene, I've just got like fire and heart emojis there. Hi, Norbert. Oh, oops, I've got a fan. I had a fan on because it's stupid humid. And, well, shit. I had a fan until I dropped it and I broke it. It's stupid humid, and, I was able to spend more time outside today with the fan on, blowing air from the fresh side of my porch towards the cigarette smoking neighbor side. So I didn't have to go inside except for the time where the neighbor was outside with 3 of his friends and they were all smoking. The little fan could not overcome that level of cigarette smoke. So sorry, I forgot that it was there and on because it's just been on all day, so it became background noise for me. But it's not on anymore. No problem. No problemo. What did I say next? Oh yes, the benefits of having a
Oh, I misspelled that like crazy. Demonic being as your lover are personalized ass flavors exactly to your preference and a prelude asshole. Nice benefits. Oh my god, and then when Wei Wuxian was like, all I wanted was to die thinking of you, I was sobbing about that one. And how. And whatever song snippet you sang, I did not recognize it, but I liked it. What was it from? Misery. And then I was like, all caps yelling, oh shit, what a cliffhanger. And then my last comment was, oddly wholesome and like a really fucked up way is such an apt description of this fic. Yeah, agree. Okay, so what's our timestamp? It is 6 minutes. Wow, I shaved 4 minutes off my usual intro time. 6 minutes, and we're starting chapter 5 of You Are What You Eat by Delicious Blizzard Shark. Notes. Oh, this chapter is called The Rules Continued. Author's notes. Warning, that does not say mild. Mid-chapter POV shift. Hold on. Sorry, I just got a text message that might be important, and I have to check that. I am acknowledging. Okay. We're cool. We're good to go. Wei Wuxian stares down at the decaying soldier in front of him and wonders how he got here. How the hell he got here. Salivating over a rotting corpse. Swollen and fetid. Is it fetid or hold on. Well, first paragraph, and I already have to look up how to say a word. I'm trying to paste the word, thank you. Make sure, yeah, okay. Here we go.
Fetid.
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 Fetid. Fetid, all right. Come on, back, okay, there we go. Swollen and fetid, maggots already squirming in its eyes and mouth and open wounds. Behind him, he feels Lan Zhan shift uncomfortably.
Can you tell me,
he asks in his soft, deep voice,
why you want to eat these corpses? Fresher meat could easily be obtained.
Lan Zhan is not supposed to be like this. Not supposed to speak in a reasonable voice. Not supposed to stand behind him, refusing to run away or recoil. He's changed since the night they met on the rooftops. A parrot who could only recite books and rules. Sometimes Wei Wuxian wishes he hadn't, wishes he were someone he could hate. It would be so much easier if he didn't have to care what Lan Zhan thought about him. But who is Wei Wuxian to complain about people changing? Then Lan Zhan says, because he is too good for Wei Wuxian and whatever demon has wormed its way into his body.
If this is something you need, Wei Yong.
And it kills Wei Wuxian, it honestly does. And the surprise and hope and joy and pain of it is enough for Wei Wuxian to shove that hunger away, to gulp the air as if he still needs to breathe, to stand up. No, he says. No. It's not something I need, but you mentioned meat. Do you think? And Lan Zhan takes him by the wrist and pulls him away before the hunger can swell and crash down on him again. So I've been outside. That's a section break. I've been outside using my roomie's Chromebook all day. since I wasn't allowed on socials, I was doing things like finally catching up on my backlog of recorded and posted to the Internet Archive on Tumblr, but not on AO3 Fix. And like, I recently figured out that if you copy and paste a comma separated list of tags into the additional, well, any tags box, but into the tags box, and hit either comma or enter or tab, the form will auto parse that into the tag set, entered all together. So I've been going back through my older published fix, and because I was limited up on my equipment and my executive dysfunction, I was like, okay, so as to not make this too monotonous and like boring as fuck so I don't quit, I'm gonna just post like one ship, like the main ship, no additional characters, and I will list the author's tags in the summary so everybody can still see them, but so I wasn't have to put them in copy and paste one by one, because I didn't know about the comma separated list hack. And I didn't have access to the little extensions and GitHub code things that everybody else uses with the laptops and such, right? But since I figured out this shortcut, I've been going back and like updating all my old fix and like changing it so that they're more searchable, more findable, and like updating the publication dates. So everybody who saw a bunch of Guardian fix pop up today, it wasn't because I read them recently. It was just because I revamped their AO3 shells a lot. Not new stuff, just like grand re-release, I guess. Okay, sorry, back to the story. No, actually, the whole entire reason I got off on this tangent was I've been using the Chromebook all day, and I was trying to scroll up the screen on my e-reader with my mouse, which was really funny, and I wanted to tell you about that. And I started giving you context and got distracted by myself. So back to the story. Wei Wuxian consumes 3 cows, hooves and horns and shit-caked hides and all, before he feels like the hunger has calmed down enough for him not to swallow alive the next person he sees. That is hunger. His mind blanks out while he's eating, or maybe he's just gotten really good at repressing memories, because he's not entirely sure how the cows got inside of him, and as there is definitely not enough room inside of him for even one cow, what happened to them after that? But he seems to have done so with a minimum of damage. It's because you just have a space of holding within you, Wei Wuxian, or, similar. There is metaphysical, supernatural energy transformation bullshit going on within you. Lan Zhan seemed unflapped by the scale and nature of Wei Wuxian's consumption. But this is perhaps unsurprising considering the whole recent threat of corpse eating. And that's a section break. It's near sundown when they approach the quarters given to the Jiang sect, only to find Jiang Wanyin and brother waiting for them. This was the POV change to Lan Wangji. Brother, Lan Wangji greets, bowing. We have more data for sect leader Nia about Wei Yong's abilities. Hopefully, they will allow us to develop a sound battle strategy. Brother gives Lan Wangji the most disapproving look he has ever given him, even more disapproving than when Lan Wangji refused to wear anything darker than ice blue robes. That's a lot of disapproval from Zhang Zhang. Is that what you and Lan Argongsa have been up to the whole afternoon? Jiang Wanyin demands of Wei Yong. Wei Yong pouts at him and opens his mouth. Yes, Lan Wangji says. And we were reviewing the rules of appropriate conduct. Lan Wangji says. It's not even entirely a lie. You were? Brother asks, his disapproval softening. Lan Wangji says.
Wei Yong's recent experiences have caused him to misjudge proper behavior in polite society. I was helping to remind him.
Both brother and Jiang Wanyin look between the two of them, surprised and a little suspicious. Like, well deserved. And what were Wei Gong's recent experiences? Brother asks.
Wei Yong does not remember with clarity,
Lan Wangji says.
as he has repeated numerous times, brother, the battle strategy.
Brother clears his throat. Wangji, have you been physically intimate with Wei Gongse?
Yes,
Lan Wangji says. Lan Shan, Wei Yong hisses. The rules.
in this case, Lan Wangji says, other rules supersede the ones we agreed to. I will submit to punishment later.
Wei Yong cackles very softly. Oh, I wonder how Lan Wangji is going to be punished. Remember, Wangji, it doesn't count as punishment if you enjoy it. Lan Wangji hopes his blushing isn't too obvious. Wangji, brother says, you have violated numerous Lan sect rules and acted with impropriety. I understand that this has been a stressful and emotional time for both of you, but this cannot continue.
What do you mean?
This cannot continue, Wei Yong asks darkly. I'm just picturing, you know, that look on Wei Wuxian's face when he's on the rooftop at Nightless City and people are just talking shit about him, and he cocks his head a little bit and looks at them contemplating, dire acts of violence. That's the look I'm thinking is on his face. You can't keep having sex without being married, you dolt, Jiang Wanyin cries. Wei Yong I saw this coming. Wei Yong grabs Lan Wangji's hand too tightly. Then we'll get married, he says. You can't just get married, Jiang Wanyin exclaims. There are proprieties, letters and ceremonies and gifts and astrology and sect agreements. And we're in the middle of a war, and we're in mourning. So what? Wei Yong demands. We'll get married later. He tugs on Lan Wangji's hand until he's standing in front of him, as if trying to block Lan Wangji from view. And keep having sex now. You can't, brother says. It is against the rules. I don't care about your rules, Wei Yong hisses. Lan Wangji thinks he might have gotten a little taller to hide Lan Wangji better. Delicious detail. I've had enough of your rules. The only rules I'm listening to are Lan Zhan's, and the only ones he's listening to are mine. You're not allowed to punish him anymore.
Wei Yong,
Lan Wangji says softly. No, Wei Yong says. You're mine. They're not taking you away from me. His grip on Lan Wangji's hand tightened even further.
Wei Yong, you're hurting me,
Lan Wangji says. Wei Yong loosens his grip immediately and gives him a guilty look, rubbing his wrist between his hands. I'm sorry, he says. Lan Wangji runs his hand down the side of Wei Yong's face and says,
do not hurt my brother or yours. This is a new rule.
Lan Wangji touching the side of his face in like one of the soothing gestures, like let's bring the temper down. Oh, love it. But what if they try to hurt us? Wei Yong asks.
They will not,
Lan Wangji says.
They care for us.
He swallows and turns to brother and Jiang Wanyin.
This isn't an ordinary situation.
he says.
The ordinary way things are done should not apply. Allow us to make our 3 bows now. We can observe the proprieties when things are back to normal.
Wangji, you can't marry him, brother exclaims. Wei Young hisses again and tries to pull forward, but Lan Wangji tugs him back.
Why not?
Lan Wangji asks. He's, brother swallows. He's not Wei Wuxian.
He is.
Lan Wangji says calmly. He spat up Wen Chao's teeth, brother exclaims. He told Nia Huaisong he might eat people. I already promised not to. Wei Young mutters. I already promised not to. Wangji, I don't think he's human.
Wei Young is Wei Young.
Lan Wangji says.
I do not care what else he is.
Oh, I would love you even if you were a worm. Wrong, Fandom. That's TGCF. But still. Beside him, Wei Young gasps and stares at him. Like, hey, we all been known Lan Wangji would love Wei Young in any body. That's canon. And there's so many fun ways you can explore that. Do not associate with evil, brother quotes. Lan Wangji stares at him.
Wei Young is not evil,
he says. He told Nia Huaisong he might eat people, brother repeats, almost hysterically.
He didn't know it was wrong,
Lan Wangji says.
Now he does, and he will not. That is not evil. That is just needing to be taught.
He does not mention the incident this afternoon. What they don't know won't hurt them. Who needs to be taught that it's wrong to eat people? Jiang Wanyan demands. It doesn't make any sense, Wei Young exclaims. Why is it okay to kill them but not to eat them? They're dead one way or the other. The birds and bugs eat them. Why can't I?
Because if someone's body is not intact, they will not be able to go to the afterlife properly. And then they will not be able to be filial,
Lan Wangji says. Well, how was I supposed to know that? Wei Young complains. I don't know anything about that. He frowns. But the birds and bugs eat them? Surely their bodies are not intact then. Okay, fair points are being made.
We cannot control natural forces,
Lan Wangji says.
Only our own actions.
Oh, excuse me. Oof.
Only our own actions. But yes, they should be buried properly, so they do not remain here as ghosts.
I can help with that, Wei Young says brightly. I'm very good at burying things. You should know all this already, Jiang Wanyan says. This is basic stuff. Wei Young pouts at him. You know my memory is bad, he says. That's why I need Lanjan to help me. He can tell me what's right and wrong. And you'll listen to him? Brother asks. Wei Young's face takes on a mischievous cast. He balances his flute on a finger. I guess we'd have to be married, he says. Wouldn't it be inappropriate otherwise? Lanjan spending so much time with me, making such decisions. Yes, Jiang Wanyan snaps. You should be listening to me, not him. Wei Young sticks his tongue out at him. I can't have sex with you. It's against the rules. Jiang Wanyan turns red. Why are you so weird? You don't have to have sex with someone to listen to them. But the punishments wouldn't be as fun, Wei Young pouts.
Wei Young,
Lan Wangji scolds. Xian, Jiang Yanli appears, behind Jiang Wanyin. Lan Wangji sincerely hopes she's overheard very little of the conversation. Lan Wangji is prepared for the earth to open up and swallow him for the level of mortification he would experience should she have heard anything. I am sure. Xie Wei Yong cries, abandoning himself to fling. Abandoning Lan Wangji to fling himself in his Shijie's arms. Lan Wangji reminds himself not to be jealous. I'm picturing Wei Young throwing his arms up in excitement and then just like practically teleporting over there. Xie, they're being... I almost said they're being mean. I heard that phrase a lot today from one of the girls I was babysitting. Xie, they won't let me marry Lan Zhan. Wei Young wails into his Xie's shoulder. You can marry him, Jiang Wanyan says. Maybe, brother interjects. But not right now, Jiang Wanyan finishes. See, Wei Young cries. Why do you want to marry him so suddenly? Jiang Yanli asks. Marriages usually take years. You know this. And we're in mourning. Because they said we couldn't have sex anymore if we weren't married, Wei Young says. Jiang Yanli looks sharply up at Lan Wangji. Lan Gongza, she says, did you deflower my Didi? I'm not sure if I said pronounce. Let's try that one again. Hold on. Lan Gongza, she says, did you deflower my Didi? That was more Yanli. Lan Wangji flushes and looks down. Him? Brother protests. Wei Gongzi is surely the guilty party here. He's the shameless one. Also, he's a cannibal, and not even human. How can I be a cannibal if I'm not human? Wei Young demands. That doesn't even make any sense. That's like calling a fox a cannibal for eating a rabbit. I mean, Wei Wuxian is he's making valid points in these conversations.
We are equally culpable, Lan Wangji cuts in quickly. It was mutually desired and acted upon.
Words that I bet Lan Wangji never thought he'd have to say out loud. They're going to take Lan Zhan back to cloud recesses and punish him. Wei Young wails into Jiang Li's shoulder. They hit him 300 times just because I coerced him into drinking. What will they do to him for having sex with me?
I will accept my discipline honorably,
Lan Wangji says stiffly. No, Wei Young says. I am the only one allowed to punish you. What? Brother demands. Jiang Wanyin turns on him. You... I did not agree to that rule, Lan Wangji says, gently. They won't take him away until the war is over, Jiang Yanli says. He's one of the strongest warriors. I am having a hard time pitching my voice very femme today. Hold on, there's a ruckus inside. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. Good news for me, I was able to repair the fan. Bad news for you, you might hear the fan. Unfortunately, it's so humid that I am so sweaty I can't tell if my scalp is damp because of me sweating or because of the humidity in my hair. Like, I don't know if y'all have ever been to Florida and experienced the level of humidity present right before a thunderstorm. But oh my god, there is like condensation on my skin just from sitting outside, coming outside from the air conditioner. Actually, hopefully this microphone isolation box, little DIY setup, is hiding the worst of the fan noise from you. Okay, where were we? I was going to try Yenli again. They won't take... Goddamn. They won't take him away until the war is over, Jiang Yanli says. He's one of the strongest warriors. Fine, Wei Yong says, crossing his arms. Well, I won't fight unless I can marry Lanjan right away, and also if he agrees to the rule that I'm the only one allowed to punish him. You, Jiang Wanyin yells. You have to fight. Why? Wei Yong asks. What's it to me?
Wei Yong, innocent people are being harmed,
Lan Wangji reminds him. I don't care about them, Wei Yong says.
You do.
Lan Wangji says.
We made a promise, remember? To defend the weak.
Oh, Wei Yong says. Well, I'll just defend them and not everyone else. Why not just let them get married? Nia Huaisong asks. They all turn to see him standing behind them, fluttering his fan. I was going to throw a banquet anyway, in honor of Wei Xiong's return. It could be easily a wedding banquet. We have plenty of red silk lying around. Fortune tellers, Jiang Wanyin shouts. Gifts, letters, sect negotiations. Is Wei Xiong really still a member of the Jiang sect? Nia Huaisong asks. If he is an immortal now, and possibly not human, and can Wangji Xiong remain in the Lan sect if Wei Xiong demands no one else be allowed to discipline him? Lan Wangji swallows, then touches his forehead ribbon gently. He looks at Brother. Brother takes a deep breath. This issue does not concern just us, but all the sects, he says. If the outcome will determine whether this war will be won or not, let us take this to the War Council. He hesitates, then shoots a look at Lan Wangji. And I will send a message to my uncle to ask him to attend. That was a threat. Wei Yong stiffens.
You are also not allowed to harm my uncle,
Lan Wangji says. Wei Yong glares at him. Who am I allowed to harm? He asks.
People who are actively trying to harm you,
Lan Wangji says.
People who are actively trying to harm those you are sworn to protect. People who are actively trying to harm the innocent. People who you have good reason to believe will harm you, those you are sworn to protect, or the innocent in the future, and you have no other way of stopping them.
Ah, Wei Yong cries. I am sworn to protect you, and your uncle will discipline you if I do not stop him. So which rule applies?
Discipline is not harm,
Lan Wangji says, although he is no longer sure of this. So my thoughts on that. Corrective action and redirection, probably not harm. Punishment for the sake of punishment, definitely harm. Discipline, I don't like that word, frankly, because it is used to cover up what I think are harmful things, especially when you're caring for neurodivergent children. Discipline to me is definitely a code word for you have to obey this set of rules or you are wrong and bad and no one likes you, and you must feel guilty because you didn't obey these arbitrary rules that make no sense to you at all. I just don't like it. And I do think that aside from a few very basic tenets of, don't hurt people on purpose unless, you're defending yourself from harm or someone you're sworn to protect, just like Lan Wangji said. Like, and also in my house, don't put your feet on my fucking pillows and stop rearranging the shit in my fridge. But aside from those very basic sort of rules, I think that different people need different frameworks within to function best. So, like, it's a very complex issue. And while I do understand that the Lan sect is trying to make it easier to be a, quote, good person, that they have way overshot it and frozen out from their disciples critical thinking and, questioning of authority and the why behind things, instead of, giving them a set of like 20 to 100 if you must rules and being like, okay, these are our guiding precepts and you must use your critical thinking skills and best judgment to apply them per situation because you're the boots on the ground at the time. And yes, your call will be reviewed later, peer reviewed and or reviewed by the elders. And, if we think you could have done something different, we will tell you, but we're not going to shame you in public for it unless like somebody died who wasn't supposed to because of what you said, kind of got off the topic I even started from. I agree with Lan Wangji. Discipline is not harm is a false statement in most circumstances. Wangji, brother says, may I speak to you privately? No, Wei Yong says, quickly, running over to stand between them.
Wei Yong,
Lan Wangji says, placing his hands on his shoulder and turning him around.
do you trust me?
Of course, Lanjia, Wei Yong says.
Then trust me to make my own choices about this,
Lan Wangji says. Excuse me.
I will go and speak privately with my brother, and he will not harm me.
You'll come back, Wei Yong says. If you do not, I will go to Gusu and tear it down. If you are dead, the rules will no longer apply. I will eat the world in revenge for you. Badass. That's the most romantic shit anyone's ever said ever. I hope Lan Wangji's ears are burning right now.
I will come back,
Lan Wangji promises, and though he knows he should not, leans forward to kiss Wei Yong. Wei Yong wraps his hands around the back of Lan Wangji's neck and kisses him back fiercely until Lan Wangji gently disengages him, promises he'll come back again, and leaves with brother. And that's the chapter end. Oh, that's going to be quite the talk. I thought it was so funny when Yanli was like, did you deflower my Didi? The way she stood up to Jin Zishun. Just imagine her and Lan Wangji, who is supposedly, Wang Yibo is more of a slender build. They did their best with TV tricks to make him seem like a tall, intimidating person, but they more achieved graceful and willowy. But like in the Donghua design, Long Wangji is, a brick shithouse of a man, like thick and solid. And here's dainty little Jiang Yanli looking up at him, and he's, aw shucks, digging his toe into the dirt if he fidgeted, like internally, not making eye contact because he is intimidated by her. I just treasure that mental image so much. Okay, so Misery, over to you. I hope that your weekend IRL stuff wasn't too awful. And I look forward to hearing your read of the next chapter. So, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Bedtime Stories. Remember, let me know if there was a noticeable difference in the sound quality with this, what's it called? Microphone isolation box. Also, I am curious, did anyone notice when I was able to get the fan turned back on? Because if you did, I'll have to either reposition it or get a quieter fan, but this is just the one that we had kicking around in the apartment. Hopefully people will be asleep soon and I can go inside where it is much less humid and, theoretically quieter. So, yeah, I'm stopping the recording now. Hello and welcome to Bedtime Stories. Just so everyone knows, this is the 150th recording I've made on my tablet. It is actually nowhere near my 150th Podfic thing, but, 150th Bedtime Stories related, including things like mic checks, karaoke for vocal warm-ups, podlets for vocal warm-ups, recordings of live reactions to things. By the way, I have a Discord server now. I'm having a lot of fun with it. The membership is very small, and that's chill. I'm not concerned about how many people are in it. I was mentioning that to say, that I have a Discord, and in it I have a channel called Sharing. And so the thing that I've started doing the past couple days, the new concept, is I will be broadcasting live what I am podficking, what I am watching in terms of movies, TV, or YouTube content. Sometimes those categories overlap. Or what I am listening to in terms of music or podfic that I am enjoying, so that whoever wants to can just drop in and hang out with me. I do have that voice channel limited so that I'm the only person allowed to speak in it, or at least I think that's how I've got it set up. But there is a watch party chat line text channel for people to speak in, and when I am not recording podfic, I do modify the speaking permissions in the channel. I can do that, on a case-by-case basis. I just want to make sure that no one's voice is recorded without their direct intent. And I've been, yesterday I tried a fun thing where a friend of mine was stuck awake, and I read them a fic pic while I was recording a new chapter. Well, it was a one-shot, so a new session of it, as they were actually going to sleep. So that was really fun and deeply satisfying to be able to help my friend do that, and also record the experience and interact with what they were saying in the chat. So I can see why the big YouTubers and the big content creators have fun, like, reacting to things people say in the chat. So, yeah. This is me reading chapter 7 of You Are What You Eat. Wow, that was a really big truck. I hope this microphone isolation box that I made is working to help cut off the background highway noise, because those big trucks are so distracting when they go by. And I admit it is much quieter, much quieter inside my apartment, but I don't want to wake up the littles that I'm babysitting any earlier than I have to. It would be karma for all the times they've woken me up when I'm not ready to be awake, but, you know, then that would cut into my recording time. Excuse me. Also, I've got this neat little setup on my patio where I made myself sort of a portable recording studio. Little buddy tore up my roommate's Chromebook. Like, there was a crack in the chassis near the mouse trackpad, and he dug his fingers into it and ripped off plastic pieces. So the entire trackpad is exposed. A couple keys are missing. The speaker got ripped out, and you can't really access the USB ports on the right side. However, since I have a Bluetooth ergonomic trackball mouse and a wired portable 61 key little keyboard, and the ports on the left side of the Chromebook are still functional, I have my own Chromebook now. Yay! It's so busted, but it totally functions with my setup. So now I have a little recording studio, and I can interact with the Discord as I like. So what did I say to Misery last chapter? Oh, last chapter was called Dee Dee. And I didn't realize until I was listening to it that there are two Dee Dees in this chapter, because Lan Wangji and Wei Wuxian are both younger brothers, and they interact with their siblings there. I continue to love the way that Misery introduces their podfics as "Welcome back, Insomniacs." Love it. What did I say? Oh, Lan Zishen said, "Are you sorry you broke the rules, or sorry they're in conflict with what you think is right?" Conflict. And I was like, ooh, banger. Like, incisive. But then Lan Zishen said the word dick out loud, and I was like, oh, are you projecting, Xiangxiang? Yeah, it's definitely about his heart, Lan Zishen. Like, sure, Lan Wangji is thirsty, but he's not ready to give up his clan about the sex. And then Lan Wangji's being all romantic, getting ready to secede from the clan. Okay, Norbert, go inside. You're going to want back out in like 5 seconds. Oh, and then I was like, oh, that's goddamn right. The right path has nothing to do with cultivation. Right? It doesn't matter if Wei Wuxian has a golden core or not. Like, you can be a righteous person without having a golden core. It's the choices that you make, the actions that you take that make you a righteous person, not whether or not you have a golden core. And then I celebrated Lan Wangji saying the word fuck out loud. And then I was like, oh shit, he's taking off the ribbon. Oh, I forgot to say, Norbert distracted me. It's about Norbert. I listened to the last chapter when I was taking Norbert for a walk. Yes, I am one of those ridiculous people that has a harness and a leash for their cat. He just gets so bored sitting on the patio, and he was originally, he was a rescue kitty, right? So he lived in the wild for quite some time. He was about a year old when I got him, according to the vet. It's been 3-ish months now that I've had Norbert in my life. Been blessed by the benevolent paws of my shadowy overlord. He's a black cat. Maybe I should put a channel in the Discord server that's just Norbert appreciation. I already have a Tumblr tag for him. Theoretically, I have an Instagram, and I said I was going to set up a Snapchat just for Norbert. I still haven't done that. Oh my god, I need to do that. Anyhow, so I was taking Norbert for a walk, and I was like, wow, I want to let him have a really nice long ramble this time. Because my cryptid roommate takes him on walks too. It was actually her idea to get him the harness and the leash. And I was like, yeah, valid. Norbert really wants out in the backyard and in the courtyard. He likes to chase butterflies and pounce on flower petals and try and eat lizards and bugs and, agitate the little yappy dogs a couple apartments away from mine. Try and tip over flower pots. That happened. So I was taking over for a walk, and I was like, I need something to listen to or to entertain me. And I was on my phone, and my email popped up a notification of the Chapter 6 new release from Misery Smiles. So I clicked on that, and it was the perfect length. It was like 13, 15 minutes, something like that. And so I was I had the leash wrapped around my right wrist, and I was holding my phone and like typing in the comments my reactions to remind myself what I wanted to say. Yeah. And then, this chapter actually got really philosophical. Two main points for me was, in my opinion, personhood does not automatically come along with the state of being a human, and vice versa, because Wuxian is talking about himself like he's not a person, like he doesn't deserve things because he's not human. And I'm like, oh, that bugs me so much. And maybe it's because I, really consumed a lot of science fiction and fantasy as a child and a youth, and that trend has continued forward from my younger years, where I just, I really empathize and sympathize and feel the experience of the characters who are labeled monsters and other, and I think that's a common neurodivergent and disabled experience because, we don't have the mainstream cishet neurotypical experience. Which, side note, I have an entire discussion prepared on the intersection of the neurodivergent and queer experience if we want to go into that at some point. But, that's why one of the reasons why I enjoy Monster Fucking Fix so much. It's like the creature who is considered other and taboo and the things that we don't talk about in polite society, all those experiences. I really just wrapping it back around to being human doesn't make you a person, and not being human doesn't mean you are not a person, and therefore because personhood in society, if you're not a person, then you don't have the right to courtesy and agency and the best allegory for it is the experience of a child being told, oh, you can't make your own decisions about what you eat, what you wear, where you go, how you spend your days, your schedule, your occupations, because you're not a person yet. You don't have the right to those things. You don't have the same legal protections. And I don't feel like I'm expressing this well, but to sum it up, being human doesn't make you a person, and being a person isn't necessarily associated with the state of being human. For example, I think Norbert is a person and deserving of that level of respect and agency as much as possible. Short version. Pets are people too. And then the other bit of philosophy in this chapter was Wei Wuxian, you are allowed to be happy and take joy in the midst of tragedy. Like, my dude, just because everything is shit and, you know, tragic things have happened in the world around you and to you personally doesn't mean you can't be happy about being in love with someone or take joy in, like, that flower is a pretty color or the weather is nice, you know? You don't have to be miserable just because your circumstances are not great. Oh, and then we were all like, all hail Yanli, queen of our hearts. Because Shijie is not just about making soup. She also brings the deep thoughts and the protectiveness, you know? Oh, and then by the way, a while back, I actually recorded that meta post about Zhejie. No, it's Zhi, yeah. The Hangxi Guilai. It looks like an article. It's so well put together. Like, it looks like it should be printed in a scholarly journal, I swear. But I made a post about that on Tumblr, and I recorded myself reading it because another fic that I, oh my god, have not finished reading for a long time. It's kind of lingering in my work in progress purgatory. Anyway, I made a recording of the article for that, for the context, and you really should, if you're interested in the linguistics aspect of it at all. So much context added to the soulmates concept, or common translation of zhi. Yeah, because it's the flat tone on zh and the little the third tone, I think, the one that has the looks like an angry eyebrows emoji, and it goes zh, so it's zh. Okay, sorry, that's a timestamp 15 minutes and 37 seconds. We're actually starting reading chapter 7 of You Are What You Eat by Delicious Blizzard Shark. This chapter is called Apologies. It's late when Wei Wuxian returns to his room, and he is surprised to find Lan Zhan lying on his bed, laid out flat like a corpse. Lan Zhan, he says, more loudly than he'd intended. Lan Zhan rolls to his side to look at him. Wei Wuxian sits down on the edge of the bed and traces a finger along the edge of Lan Zhan's jaw. I thought you would stay in your room tonight, he says.
Because of what they said?
Lan Zhan asks. Wei Wuxian nods.
Sleeping with you was always against the rules,
Lan Zhan says.
I should.
No, oops, skip down the screen.
Other people knowing does not change that.
I'm sorry, Wei Wuxian says. I should have been discreet,
You meant no harm.
Lan Zhan says.
It is more inconvenient,
He adds.
but in some ways I am glad that people know.
Wei Wuxian finds himself laughing. Lan Zhan, you exhibitionist.
Not that.
Lan Zhan says.
I am glad that people know you are mine.
Wei Wuxian feels dizzy for a second. Yes, that's right, Wei Wuxian. You are claimed, publicly acknowledged. That's how much he values you. Sorry, I just got a text message from little buddy's mom. Just checking in. I'm still here, I promise. Okay. Lanjan, you, he begins, then grins. I'm glad people know you are mine too.
Brother has agreed to our marriage,
Lanjan says. Oh, Wei Wuxian says. I'm sorry about that too, he says. I should not have assumed you wanted to marry me, but I just barged in and started demanding it. I don't think he minded. Lanjan threads his fingers through Wei Wuxian's.
It's okay. You panicked.
You don't have to, Wei Wuxian says. Marry me, that is. All those things I said about not fighting in the war, tearing down Gusu. I only meant it if they force us apart. If it is your decision, I will accept it.
I want to.
Lanjan says, his voice suddenly gone rough.
I want to. Wei Ying, you are mine.
Wei Wuxian leans in to kiss him. A sweet, lingering kiss, but suddenly pulls back when he remembers something. Look, he says, standing. I can control my body changing shape a little now. He stands up and holds out his right arm and concentrates, and suddenly spikes grow out from the back of it. Unexpectedly, they grow on his left arm as well and puncture his chest.
Oops.
Oh, he says, looking at where he sliced into himself.
Wei Ying,
Lanjan exclaims with alarm, jumping up and grabbing Wei Wuxian's arm to pull the spikes out of his body, slicing his hands on Wei Wuxian's spines. I'm okay, Wei Wuxian says, making the spikes recede. It doesn't even hurt. But Lanjana, you've cut yourself. He grabs Lanjan's hands, blood welling in his palms.
you're really fine?
Lanjan asks, and Wei Wuxian nods, then watches as the cuts quickly close, leaving Lanjan with bloody hands. Oh my god. Yes,
Here,
Lanjan says, lifting his hands up to Wei Wuxian. Wei Wuxian looks at him in confusion.
you said you liked the taste of blood.
Lanjan says. You said not to talk about it, Wei Wuxian says.
No one can see.
Lanjan says.
It will go to waste otherwise.
Wei Wuxian licks his lips, then carefully takes Lanjan's hands in his and licks away the blood, starting on the blood pooled in his palms, then working his way up his fingers, carefully cleaning the webbing between them, then sucking each one in turn. Okay, not only is that super fucking hot, wow, and romantic all at the same time, and sweet, but like blood pacts between demons and humans. They are so married already. Oh my god. It's like what I like about vampire fics, you know? When one of the characters is literally having their life force sustained by the thaumaturgical exchange of energies and the life force represented by the fluid of the blood. It's philosophy and love and magic all wrapped up into the same delicious. Okay. Do you like that? He asks Lanjan when he's done. Lanjan is trembling beside him. I liked it, Lanjan whispers. Me too, Wei Wuxian says. Although I prefer the body fluids you exude without being harmed. Lan Zhan makes a noise that sounds suspiciously like a laugh. Then he touches Wei Wuxian's side.
There aren't even any holes in your clothes,
He says after a moment. No, Wei Wuxian says. He takes off his outer robe and lays it carefully on the clothing stand, then takes off his inner robe. Beneath it, his flesh is undamaged.
I don't.
Oops, wrong character. I don't bleed, Wei Wuxian says. Look. He sharpens his finger to a point and cuts his skin open. Ouch. The wound ripples and closes. It doesn't hurt. Nothing hurts. I'm jealous. Like, what I wouldn't give to not be in pain. Small personal story. I have chronic pain. It is an unspecified connective tissue disorder, disease, whatever. And so, like, I always feel that my joints are, like, at least low grade on fire. Sometimes the pain is more acute. So, like, I am always aware of where I am physically in the world because I can always feel everything. You know, like, my hands get sore, and the doctors are like, which joints? And I'm like, all of them? Neck, shoulders, elbows, wrists, phalanges, spine, hips, the connections of my rib to my spine, knee, ankle, the entire foot area. Like, some of them hurt more than others. You know, I've had a history of tendonitis in one of my knees compared to the other. But, you know, like, the fix where people heal magically and quickly and they're not in pain, I enjoy those so much, but I'm so jealous. Like, please isekai me into a body that can heal, that does not experience pain constantly. Please, when I die, that's what I want as my next life. I don't even want to be a main character. I want to be like a NPC, right? I don't want to be the sidekick. I don't want to be the main character. I want to be like a librarian they run into at some point, and I provide helpful information in a place of repose and recuperation. And they can come back, you know, I want to like be kept up on their adventures and whatnot, but I do not in any way want to be part of the main narrative. I would rather the library have more of a place in the narrative than me. Anyway, nothing hurts.
And your robes?
Lan Zhan asks. I think they're a part of me, Wei Wuxian says. That sounds so odd, doesn't it? I can take them off, but it's like a selkie, I guess. He holds out his hand, and his inner robe lifts itself off of the clothing stand, twirls around, and then Wei Wuxian gasps and sits down suddenly. The robe crumples to the ground.
Wei Young?
Lan Zhan exclaims, dropping down beside him. I'm okay, he says. When I did that, I suddenly could feel and see as if I was actually inhabiting the robe. It was a strange feeling.
This morning you
Intimidated,
This morning you imitated my voice.
Lan Zhan says.
You can change your appearance. Separate parts of yourself, and still experience the world through them.
Hold on. So I've discovered an online dictionary that is free with no ads. It's called wordwebonline.com. And it does not have the pronunciation audio file along with it, but it does have a pronunciation guide next to the word. So, separate. What the fuck? Separate. Anyway, I like it because it doesn't have ads. But there's an adjective form and a verb form, and they're pronounced the exact same way, where the verb is take things apart and like divide into portions, whereas the adjective is independent and like not united to something. And then there's a noun also pronounced the same way, indicating that it's an item that is apart from other items, like distinct. Man, I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, yo. Fuck you, English, seriously. Why do all my favorite web things have to verify that I am human before I can access them? Y'all know the John Mulaney skit where he's like, prove that you are human. And he does that whole like poem. But I like to use, when I can, the Ecosia search engine, because whatever its backside is, supposedly it plants a tree every time you make a search, and I support that. But like, according to the Cambridge Dictionary, which has a fuck ton of ads, annoying, things are pronounced differently. Separate. Separate, that's the adjective. Separate is the verb. So separate is the adjective, and separate is the verb. Christ on a fucking cracker. All right. Back to the story. So anyway, Word Web Online, useful tool for definitions, not as good for pronunciations, because apparently I can't understand their pronunciation guide, shorthand all the time. So what was Lan Wangji saying? Which form of that word? I believe that was the verb. Separate parts of yourself and still experience the world through them. Aha, Wei Wuxian says. You're saying I would make a good spy. Paperman talisman, anyone? I think you should keep these things a secret, Lan Chan says. Let people think you are only a large-scale weapon. That's right, underestimate. Why? Wei Wuxian says. Because when we end this war, they will no longer need you, Lan Zhan says. And now you are known to be something dangerous and non-human. Hold on, lost my thought. They will wish to control you, to stop you from being a threat. If these other abilities are a secret, you will have an advantage. Wei Wuxian looks at him. I never thought you would be someone to have a devious mind, Lan Zhan. So I don't know if y'all have ever heard of an author called Georgette Heyer. She wrote a lot of Regency era romance novels, but they weren't like smut novels, romance novels. They were more like Jane Austen style, um, like day in the life sort of stories of, you know, the gentry usually. And I read a lot of the. I really like the writing style. And if you are looking for a story that doesn't have smut in it, it's a very good read. Um, if you want the smut in the story, you're gonna have to like imagine it or write it yourself. But oh, that gives me an idea. There's some plot lines of the Georgette Heyer stories that I think would make very good Wangxian crossovers, or like, do you know I confuse myself a lot? What's the difference between a crossover and an AU? And I think it's that an AU is where you take the world building and put the characters in it, and a crossover is where your characters are featured in that story with the characters extant in that story. So I guess what I'm saying is an AU of the Georgette Heyer storylines I'm thinking of, where it's Wangxian in those setups, in that world building. Um, anyway, there's one there's one story, and I think it's the Grand Sophie, but it might be one of the other ones because there's so many. But the Grand Sophie is one of my favorites. Maybe it's Phoenicia, but the character is like, her beau is a soldier, and she just wants to be a soldier's wife. And she's talking about the difference between strategy and tactics, and how she always forgets, and I always forget strategy versus tactics too, so I just looked it up. Strategic and tactical planning both serve a critical purpose in business settings, whatever. But what's the difference when you compare a strategic... Hold on. Okay, I'm back. So a strategic plan moves organizations closer to larger goals and objectives. It provides clear direction across the enterprise. Tactical planning ensures the strategic plan is properly carried out. Strategic and tactical planning work together towards a common goal because strategy is long-term goals, tactics are concrete and oriented towards a shorter time frame with smaller steps. Right, okay. So, Lanjan, look at you being a strategic thinker. Devious. You do not grow up with 3,000 rules and not learn some subterfuge. Lanzan. Lanjan says primly. Okay, so some of my new friends are using this phrase called it's a elegant and demure, and I honestly don't know where that's coming from. Like, it must be some media trend that I missed out on, but it's filtered itself into my speech patterns. So when Lanjan is being prim and proper, I'm like elegant and demure. Wei Wuxian laughs. I will do as you say, he says. Lanjan, I have a third thing to apologize to you for. He sits down on the bed again and wraps his arms around himself. This afternoon, when I saw the corpses, I lost control. I threatened you. I can't even explain it.
Why you wanted to eat putrefying corpses?
Lanjan asks, sitting down beside him. Yes, Wei Wuxian says. I got so hungry. So suddenly, all I could think about was how good it would be to consume them. Only when you were so kind to me could I resist. I know we've been playing around with this punishment thing, but Lanjan, I don't think I could bear being punished for that.
It wasn't your will.
Lanjan says. Wei Wuxian feels himself beginning to cry and wipes the red liquid out of his eyes. It's terrifying, he says. Not even the idea of not being able to control what I do. Oops, I jumped that sentence down. Hold on. Not even the idea of eating the corpses, but the idea of not being able to control what I do. The idea of hurting you and not being able to stop. Maybe you shouldn't be with me. I can leave. I can go somewhere far away where no one ever goes, like the burial mounds. Plenty of corpses there. Oh shit, call back to canon, yo. No, baby, self-isolation and exile with no contact. That's never a healthy self-care strategy. I walk that back. If you are just in need of a brief disconnect and reset, fine. But I'm talking about long term, like what Lan Zixin did, what the Lan clan tends to do, their quiet time. That's not good for people. I speak as a neurodivergent person with strong introvert tendencies and antisocial leanings in person. As you can tell, I can be quite social online. It's just different. It's just different. It's on my terms. Anyway, um, I think I hold this opinion very strongly that if you are sad and hurting and hating on yourself, taking yourself away from your friendships and your uh, methods of external support and validation is actually the worst thing you can do, because then you're just stuck with only the voices in your head, and most of those aren't very nice. Whether they came internally originally or they were from things other people have told you that you internalized so much it became part of your internal narrative, or acknowledging the people out there who are systems of identities and perhaps don't talk very nicely to themselves either. uh, TLDR, don't separate yourself from your support networks just because you're hating on yourself. Just because you don't like yourself doesn't mean other people don't like you. And your friends and your online connections and even random strangers on the internet will probably have very validating and reassuring things to say to you because they love you and they like you. If they didn't like you, they wouldn't be interacting with you on a regular basis. Yeah. And what? Lanjan asks, sitting down beside him and wrapping his arm around him. A moment later, he feels a warm, wet cloth wiping away the blood tears.
Just be alone forever?
And not be able to hurt anyone by accident, Wei Wuxian says. It didn't fucking work for Elsa. It won't work for you. You have to practice control of extraordinary abilities to be able to control them. Not using them is the worst possible strategy. And tactic, for that matter.
You'd hurt me,
Lan Zhan says. And your Shijie and Shidi. if you left. Solid point. Emotional versus physical harm. That's different, Wei Wuxian says. No, it's not, baby.
And you won't be able to help us win the war,
Lan Zhan points out.
people will die. Who would not have died if you were there to help us fight? Maybe we will lose, and when we're all hand, we'll continue to turn people into puppets.
But what if I can't control it? Wei Wuxian asks. What if I snap or something and I hurt people? You mean, what if you have a Thanos moment and disappear half of the universe? Or do you mean like, what if you have a ginger snap moment and lose control of your temper? If you have never heard that phrase before in that usage, ginger snap is not a cookie only. Ginger snap is when a redhead loses control of their temper. Or, other flavor of gingers. They're not all redheads. They're like strawberry blondish or whatever.
We will try to find ways to prevent it,
Lan Zhan says. And Wei Wuxian is amazed by how confident he sounds.
Using your skills made you hungry, and that contributed. So if you limit the use and we make sure there is adequate food on hand, hopefully that will help. We will keep away people who agitate you. Perhaps mindfulness exercises such as meditation will help you strengthen your control.
Making plans. Look at you, Lan Zhan. Lan Wangji has a brain in there, yo. It's not just beauty. Goddamn you trains. Noisy motherfuckers. Like, for serious, I understand how important trains and big rigs are to both the economy and the supply chain, but damn, they are noisy. Trains are not my special interest. I am not excited by them. Wei Wuxian can't help himself. He buries his face in Lan Zhan's shoulder. Lan Zhan only holds him more tightly. You're too good for me, Lan Zhan, he says. You find out I'm not human, and you don't even blink. I cry tears of blood, and you just wipe them away. I threaten you and try to eat corpses, and you comfort me. What would it take for me to drive you away? He wants to know where the boundaries are.
Cruelty,
Lan Zhan says.
lying, harming those weaker than you intentionally, abusing your power. But you do not do those things. Wei Yong is good. You do not drive me away.
Wei Wuxian laughs weakly into Lan Zhan's shoulder. I am not good, he says. But if Han Guangjun believes that of me, what can I do but try not to fail him? See, that's what I'm talking about. Your external support networks are so important. If you can't be nice to yourself for your own sake, if you don't like yourself yet, let your external support network help you value yourself and validate yourself. And validate, not invalidate, and validate yourself. And that's why it's important. Okay, this is an entire side rant. I know we're about to jump into the sex scene and like things are getting real, but do you want to know what one of my biggest pet peeves is, so to speak, when I am observing other people's relationships?
Specifically, the people that I have lived with in the past.
and theoretically am related to on paper and whatnot. When they're around other people in public together as a couple, because I am speaking about two people, but poly relationships is totally valid, and I think this would still apply. When they're speaking to other people about their significant other, their beloved person and whatnot, and they say nice things, kind things, compliments that would be nice to hear, but when they're with the person, all that person gets is complaints, nagging, reminders. So the person doesn't know that their partner has these kind thoughts about them, or their partner is a lying asshole and is just performing in public. But what I am specifically referring to is when you have nice thoughts about someone, tell them in a note, in a postcard to their faces, whatever. They need to know that you have these nice thoughts, because you just speaking it to someone else does not guarantee that they will hear about it, And it has more oomph coming from you, I think, anyway. It's like AO3 comments and like replies on Tumblr posts, It doesn't matter how many nice things you say about a fic. If you don't drop a line to the author where they can read it directly on their fic or their post, they won't know. So yeah, communication is key in all relationships. Communication, parasocial relationships, those are important to me too, okay? Face-to-face relationships, online friendships, which frankly I find more satisfying than most of my face-to-face relationships. Fuck you very much, my therapist. You're a wonderful person. But no, my social media detox time has not made me value the IRL relationships more. It made me create my own Discord server because I missed my online friends so much. So there's that. Yeah. Communication, very important to me. As a person with autism, which is ranked as a communication disorder, I have put a lot of time and effort into studying communication methods, written, spoken, verbal, spoken or written, body language, sign language, facial expressions, tone of voice, combination thereof. Like all these things roll together. And the biggest part of it is if you don't give the message to the person you are trying to communicate with, and then make sure that they understood the meaning you intended, it is not effective communication. TLDR, timestamp 52 minutes, double check when I started ranting. Say the nice things. If you think them, say them. It doesn't have to be out loud, but communicate them to the person that you are thinking them about. Because I guarantee you, external validation, at least to me, and I'm projecting, okay, external validation is so important to people to hear or absorb in some fashion. And if you write it down, then they can refer back to it in low periods. That's why I like text chats and Discord and stuff. I can go back and see things. I can even pin messages to the top of a DM and be like, this, I'm looking back at this, I've already started the AO3 content creator habit of looking back at nice comments. It does help with the dopamine and the serotonin. Okay. So, what can I do but try not to fail him. That's actually 53 minutes and 30 seconds. Then they kiss, and then they are naked in bed, and it's sweet and slow. How Lanjian touches him, how he touches Lanjian. There are no scratching fingernails, or biting teeth, or desperate cries. And if Wei Wuxian's anatomy rearranges itself a little bit so they can fuck each other at the same time, well, at least there are some advantages to being a monster. And that's a scene break, I think. Wei Wuxian should go see Jiangchang. Desperately needs to talk to Jiangchang, both about the marriage and about what Nia Huaisong said. Instead, in the morning, he goes to see Wangji. She's not a prisoner exactly, though there are guards outside of the rooms. Hold on, I gotta turn my fan on. Somebody's smoking, and I gotta get it away from my nose. Fuck. It's a non-smoking property, you assholes, you inconsiderate worms. She's not a prisoner exactly, though there are guards outside of the rooms she and Wan Young are in. They eye him suspiciously, and Wei Wuxian thinks maybe Jiangcheng set them there as much to keep people out as to keep them in. Wan Qing opens the door, and her eyes flash over him, and then she's backing up, away from him, telling the guards to allow him to come in. Wan Young is in bad shape on the bed, but at least he's conscious. He smiles when he sees Wei Wuxian, and then winces when a smile pulls a cut on his face. It's my cinnamon roll. What happened? What happened? Wei Wuxian asks. Wan Chao, Wan Qiang says, sighing. He found out we were sheltering you and took it out on Wan Young. Why didn't you run away? Wei Wuxian asks. I told you to. Our people, Wan Young says. Your people? Wei Wuxian repeats. Don't be stupid, Wan Qiang says. You met them on Daffin Mountain. Don't be rude, Wan Young chastises. You know Wei Gongsu's memory is poor. Especially since he was eaten by a demon, Wan Qiang agrees. Wei Wuxian stares at her. I was... What? I saw you, Wan Qiang says. You ate men whole, just unhinged your jaw and swallowed down. I don't know why you pretend to be Wei Wuxian, or why you rescued us. You were screaming my name, Wei Wuxian says. Because you looked like Wei Wuxian, she says. I am Wei Wuxian, Wei Wuxian says. When I last saw Wei Wuxian, he was dying, Wan Qiang says. Even I couldn't save him. Even I couldn't save him, but he couldn't be saved. They dragged me down there to see if I could eke a few days out of you. Wan Qiao did love torturing, but even if I'd wanted to, I couldn't. Your organs were failing, so they shrugged and threw you into the pit. What pit? Wei Wuxian demands. They said there was a demon down there, a hungry demon that ate everything they threw in, Wan Qiang says. I don't know any more than that. Then, a few weeks later, you appear, completely undamaged. I could have healed, Wei Wuxian says. You have no golden core, Wangxian reminds him. But I'm still me, Wei Wuxian says. I remember Daffin Mountain, Popo, right? And that little boy, Ayuan, the dancing goddess statue. How could I be dead if I can still remember? He can feel himself beginning to panic. Oh no, if he panics, bad things might happen. He forces himself to breathe. He can hear Lanjian in his mind, telling him to focus. Is it the memories that make the person? Amnesia fics want to know. Maybe he didn't die, one young says quickly. Maybe whatever was in that pit healed him, changed him. Maybe that's why. He does. He does seem like Wei Gongse, doesn't he? And as impossible as it seems, doesn't it seem more likely than a demon pretending to be him? What would it be getting out of it after all? The chance to marry Lan or Gongse? Hey, that's very highly motivating, okay? Wan Qiong frowns. Maybe, she allows. Your people, Wei Wuxian says, on Daffin Mountain. Where are they now? Wan Qiong's shoulders slump a little. Does it matter? She asks. If my uncle wins the war, he'll hurt them because of me. And if your side wins the war, they'll hurt them because they're won. But they're doctors and farmers, Wei Wuxian says. Not cultivators. You are correct, Wei Wuxian. However, Wan Qiang looks at him skeptically. Well, you're as dumb as Wei Wuxian was, she says. This is how the world works. No matter what happens, the little people get screwed over. Get used to it. No, Wei Wuxian says. She narrows her eyes at him. No? No, he repeats. I'm going to fix it, he says. I'm going to save them. The essence of Wei Wuxian. He doesn't get apathetic much. At least not on his own, like others' behalf, maybe on his own behalf. Wei Wuxian gets mad, stays mad. In a productive way, not like in a I'm generally angry and hateful way, but in a I am intellectually pissed the fuck off by this and I'm going to make something happen about it way. I think that's the core of what makes someone an activist. Wan Qiang sighs and turns away. Don't make promises you can't keep, Wei Gongse, she says. I am, Wei Wuxian tells her as she walks away. Just you wait and see. And that's the end of the chapter. Holy shit. I took a chapter that would probably take in Misery like 20 minutes to read and turn it into an hour. I guess I had a lot to say about it. Okay. So that is chapter 7 recorded. Soon to be chapter 7 uploaded and posted. Well, thanks for joining this session of bedtime stories. I don't think anybody dropped into the voice channel while I was recording. But it's not, to me, it's not about how many people joined me or if anyone did. It's about making sure the opportunity exists for people to drop in if they should so choose to do so. At any rate, I hope to be back with a new chapter. Well, the next chapter is Miseries, chapter 8, which is actually the end of the story. The next chapter I will be reading, which is the last chapter in this fic, will be actually more of a prologue, like what happened in the pit. So look forward to that.
Welcome back, Insomniacs. Hi, this is XX Misery Smiles, XX. I am sorry for such a late, post with this one. So, my life has been a little bit chaotic, and I've been finding time to do things like sit down and draw. But when it comes to finding time to record, I have very much not been the main character in that plotline. I've very much been a side character in the Podfic plotline. So, unfortunately, this is why everything is late, and, yeah, I hope you, please forgive my inconsistency. This humble possum sincerely apologizes. But, without, much further ado, this is chapter 8 of, Conditions of You Are What You Eat by Delicious Blizzard Shark. Sorry for such a awful, intro. I've been so all over the place, past few days, but hopefully it's gonna be a little pick-me-up. So this is, chapter 8, and it's kind of the last chapter of the main plot line. Last chapter, I think, is like a prequel chapter, so this is me closing you guys off. I have loved this fic so much. This will also be the last chapter I'm recording, so yeah, enjoy. Zheng Cheng is alone, stewing over something, when Wei Wuxian finally goes to see him. He looks up at Wei Wuxian and grunts. "Told you to come and see me yesterday," he says. "Glad to see you're such a good disciple." Wei Wuxian ignores him and pours himself some tea. Zheng Cheng eyes him as he sips at it. "So you ingest things besides corpses," he says. Wei Wuxian rolls his eyes. "You may have seen me eat 3 meals in the last 2 days." "Oh, you have seen me eat 3 meals in the last 2 days," he reminds him. "None of them were human flesh. I have not, in fact, in my memory, ever eaten human flesh." "How did Wen Chao's teeth get inside you, then?" Zheng Cheng asks. "I've probably done it, but I don't remember it," Wei Wuxian concedes. He sighs and spends a minute turning the cup around in his hands. "Believe me or not," he adds, "it's the truth. I came to tell you that Nie Hui-sung is wrong. My baby's wrong? Sorry. I don't want to leave the Zheng sect, even if I'm immortal and not quite human. Nie Hui-sung just wants your place." "So what then?" Zheng Cheng demands. "You're going to teach the juniors without a golden core? You're going to marry Lan Wangji and live in Lotus Pier?" "I don't know what we'll do," Wei Wuxian says, "but we'll figure it out." Zheng Cheng gets up and starts pacing. "You were supposed to be my right-hand man," he says, pointing a finger accusingly at Wei Wuxian. "You were supposed to help me." "I know," Wei Wuxian says, "and I'm sorry. Things change. When I gave up my golden core, I didn't really think I'd survive past that. I just thought better me than you. I'm still alive, though. I can't be here for you the way I wish I could be, but I'm still here." Zheng Cheng sits down finally. He wipes his eyes angrily. "Yeah," he says, "okay." Wen Cheng says that when Rohan threatened the Dafan Wen clan, she thinks if we win the war, they'll be imprisoned. "She's probably right," Zheng Cheng says. "Can't we help her?" Wei Wuxian asks. "We owe them so much." "With what?" Zheng Cheng demands. "The Zheng sect has nothing left." "I have an idea," Wei Wuxian says. "We need Lan Zhan and Zhe Wujun." Scene change! "Are you ready?" Wei Wuxian asks Lan Zhan, who squeezes his hand. They stride into the banquet hall, hand in hand. Everyone is there. Jing Guanshan, fuck that guy, came from Carp Tower. Lan Qi run from cloud recesses. When Wei Wuxian and Lan Zhan walk in, holding hands, whispers race across the hall. So you finally join us, Wei Wuxian, Jing Guanshan says in his booming voice. Or should I call you the Demon of Liling? Wei Wuxian says, glancing at Lan Zhan. Not if you want to be accurate. It's true I am from Yiling originally, but we're not quite sure if I'm a demon or something else. Jing snorts. Wei Wuxian shakes himself. I've come to help you win this war, he says. My dear husband has a record of my skills to assist with strategic planning. He inclines his head to Lan Zhan, who hands a scroll to a servant to bring to Nia Mingjue. However, Wei Wuxian continues, ignoring the gas from the cultivators and exclamations from Lan Qiren when he referred to Lan Zhan as my dear husband. My assistance cannot come without a cost. My husband will relay my conditions to you. I do not think you will find them unreasonable. Conditions? Jing Guanshan shouts. And what if we don't agree to them? Then you will have to find someone else to deal with your puppet problem, Wei Wuxian says. The Zheng sect allows its disciples to behave in this manner, Jing Guanshan demands. Wuxian is my full support, Zheng Cheng says. On Wangji. Lan Zhan nods and holds up the scroll. The first condition, he says in his quiet, slow voice, is that Wei Yang will only use his skills against puppets, not against normal cultivators. This is to ensure he does not exhaust himself before the puppets attack. We were told he was invincible, someone shouts. No one is invincible, Lan Zhan replies, unperturbed. The second condition is that there will be a sufficient supply of food brought along for Wei Yang, preferably in the form of raw meat. Living animals will be sufficient. This is to ensure that Wei Yang can continue to deal with the puppets. No one seemed to have any objection to this condition, though a number of people eye Wei Yang with increased alarm. The third condition is that once the war is won, all of the sects agree they will not persecute Wei Yang for his non-human nature. Any accusations of immortality brought against him must be done so with sufficient evidence. The fourth condition is that the spoils of war will be divided among the major and minor sects, according to the damages each took, and the cost of recovery. The fifth is that when survivors who are not cultivators or who were doctors will not be imprisoned or persecuted. A committee will be formed to supervise these last three conditions, consisting of Jin Zixuan, Zheng Yunli, Ye Huisang, myself, and a representative of the minor sects, agreed upon by consensus among them. Jin Zixuan cannot be spared for your committee, Jing Guanshan says. Jin Zixuan will attend instead. I'm afraid that's not possible, Wei Wuxian says. I refuse to submit my Shijia or Lan Zhan to committee meetings with Jin Zixuan. He is too annoying. Jin Zixuan. He is too annoying. Jin Zixuan is bad enough, but he's an honorable person. Thanks, I think, Jin Zixuan mutters. Hey, another man says, shooting to his feet. Insult me to my face! Wei Wuxian looks at Lan Zhan, then back at the band. Who are you again? Yes. Jin Zixuan, Jin Zixuan says. Yep, Wei Wuxian says. Intolerably annoying. There, I've said it to your face. What are you gonna do now? Jin Zixuan curses, looks around and sits down again. We'd be happy to negotiate on the details of this conditions, Wei Wuxian says cheerfully. Some of the details, that is. In the end, the four major sects agree. The Lang and Zheng sects had been in the bag, the Nie sect had no reason to object, and Jin Guanshan gave up when Wei Wuxian suggested that if he did not agree, the rest of them would fight without the Jin sect, and the Jins would get no spoils at all. Scene change. Wei Wuxian goes back to his room to find his husband waiting for him. They had not had a banquet or worn red silk or had a fortune teller examine their body or suffered through endless sect negotiations. They'd simply bowed to the heavens and earth, to their dead parents and ancestors, to each other. Later, Wei Wuxian had promised Zheng Cheng and Lan Zhan had promised Wu Jun they could have a spectacular wedding with all the traditional gifts and ceremonies and fancy headdresses they could want. This was just a temporary thing, so the two of them could continue to spend every moment together. Lan Zhan, Wei Wuxian's gentle safety net. Oh, God, I love their dynamics so much. Lan Zhan, Wei Wuxian says when they're not alone. Husband, remember how a few days ago you broke the rules and promised you'd accept punishment later? If Wei Wuxian had not known Lan Zhan so well, he wouldn't have been able to detect the shiver that ran through him. "Is now a good time?" Wei Wuxian asks, trying and failing to keep his voice stern. Lan Zhan nods, trying and failing to hide his eagerness. "Your punishment is..." Wei Wuxian begins, then, with a flourish, indicates the desk. "Copying!" Lan Zhan looks at him, surprised. "Copying?" Wei Wuxian gives him a wide, mischievous smile. "Copying," he says again, and places a plain-bound book on the desk. He winks. "I borrowed it from Yeshang." I don't know why I winked when I read that. Anyways. "First, you have to get naked, though." He quirks a smile at Lan Zhan, and Lan Zhan immediately takes off his layers, hanging them carefully on the clothes stand before kneeling on the cushion before the desk. "I figure since it's your first infraction, I'd go light on you and only have you do 15 pages, he says. Lan Zhan sits... whenever I hear about this, I think, like, I know they think it's hot, and it probably is hot for them, but for me, I have, when I was younger, I wrote so much by hand that I have carpal tunnel in my hands and can't write for more than, 2 to 3 pages before my hands actually start cramping up and I cannot use them. So, it just sounds so painful to me. Yeah, I would not do well with a punishment of that nature. Lan Zhan sits down on his heels and is reaching to add water to the inkstone when Wei Wuxian pulls the table away from him. He looks at him. Now to reach the inkstone he has to bend over. Not far enough that he has to lean onto the table, but a far cry from his usual perfect posture. He looks up at Wei Wuxian. "Continue," Wei Wuxian says. Lan Zhan nods and begins grinding and mixing the ink. Wuxian watches him for a moment, glorying in the sight of his naked husband, obediently preparing to copy lines from the spring book he borrowed from Huisong. Oh, Huisong, I love you. Then he kneels beside his husband and moves his hair off the back of his neck so he can kiss and nibble at it. Lan Zhan freezes for a second when he feels Wei Wuxian pressing against his back and then continues, placing a clean sheet of paper before him, obediently opening the book. He sighs when he reads the text, and Wei Wuxian can't help giggling, but he dips his brush in the ink and prepares to copy. "Wait a moment," Wei Wuxian says, and repositions Lan Zhan so his legs are spread wider apart on the cushion. Lan Zhan sighs and then turns to look at him. "You're good," Wei Wuxian says cheerfully. "Carry on." Lan Zhan nods and begins to copy the erotic text. Wei Wuxian chuckles to himself. It's been an hour poring over Nie Huisong's extensive collection, looking for one that started off really dirty for maximum effect. He waits until Lan Zhan has copied a page, his ears already burning red, before he begins the second part of his plan, waiting until Lan Zhan is re-inking his brush before trailing his hand down his husband's spine to his beautiful ass so he won't jerk the brush and ruin the page. Lan Zhan makes a sound as Wei Wuxian slip over his asshole. "Keep copying, husband," Wuxian murmurs. "You have 14 pages left before you can finish," before slipping a slippery finger into his husband's tight asshole. Lan Zhan takes a deep breath and begins copying again, his hand remarkably steady on his brush as Wei Wuxian's fingers slip in and out shallowly. He means to take his time to tease. He puts a second finger in when Lan Zhan is 4 pages done, a third when he's finished 8. He's sweating and trembling by then, gritting his teeth, his hand still impressively steady as Wei Wuxian scissors his fingers inside of him. At 11 pages, Wei Wuxian removes his fingers to Lan Zhan's gasp of objection and repositions hing so he's sitting on Wei Ying's lap, his cock sliding smoothly in. "Wei Ying," Lan Zhan gasps. 4 more pages, Wei Wuxian whispers, beginning to move beneath him slowly so he can still work his brush. Wuxian inspects each of the pages carefully as he finishes them, and makes him redo the 14th. Lan Zhan actually whines at that, actually whispers, "Wei Ying, please." And Wei Wuxian says, "No, husband, remember, this is a punishment." Lan Zhan whimpers and redoes the page. Finally, he's on the 15th page, and Wei Ying increases his speed, pumping up into him as Lan Zhan writes as steadily as he can. The moment he's done, Wei Wuxian pushes him forward onto the desk so he can fuck him properly. Lan Zhan's hips jerking back to meet every one of his thrusts, still moaning out, "Wei Ying, please, please." Wei Wuxian murmuring back, "Not yet, husband. Don't come yet." until Wei Wuxian comes inside of him and fucks him through it, and pulls out and flips his husband over and gets his mouth on his cock for just a moment before Lan Zhan is shooting into his mouth and Wei Ying is drinking it down hungrily, this fluid that is so much like blood and so much not like blood. When he lifts his head from Lan Zhan's softening cock, he laughs. He'd pushed Lan Zhan onto the desk, heedless of the wet pages still laid out there. The characters had been transferred to his skin, the mirror image of an erotic story written out in a hand that was still impossibly neat even while being fucked. Lan Zhan looks up at him, tolerantly, adoringly, and Wei Wuxian lays his hand down on that beautiful ink-stained chest. Lan Zhan tolerating and adoring Wei Ying is like just a summary of their relationship, and I love that. Was it a good punishment? He asks. No. Lan Zhan replies, his voice a low rumble beneath Wei Wuxian's ear. Oh, you liked it that much? Wei Wuxian says. Lan Zhan says, his hand coming up to stroke Wei Wuxian's hair. We shall have to think of some actual punishments then, Wei Wuxian says. The only punishment is an absence of you, Lan Zhan murmurs. We will both have to be very, very good then, Wei Wuxian says. Because I don't think I could bear that. Lan Zhan agrees. His arms tighten around his husband and they lay together as the world grows dark around them. Oh my fucking god. This entire fic has just been an absolute treat to read. Thank you so much to Xiao Kuar for inviting me onto this project and for Delicious Blizzard Shark for allowing us to do this. It was just such a fun ride, and yeah, I am so excited to see the final chapter out whenever that happens, so that we can have, a completed relay fic, and my second ever multi-voice fic, which will just be so delightful. This is just a really exciting thing, and I'm so happy I got to do this, and it makes me super excited for Voice Team, makes me super excited for other things that are going on, and just makes me super glad to be in the Podfic and writing community here, because it's just such a lovely community to be in, and that's probably, at least $70 too sincere for what I just read, which is cannibalism smut, or I guess, cannibalism kink smut, but, it's Wangxian. They're achingly sincere at all times, they're contractually obligated to just be, I think the only two characters worse than them are probably Hualian, but even then, those bitches joke around like it's nobody's business. They have the... God. Okay, I'm about to go into a rant, but this is totally off topic. I just want to say real quick that... Oh, God. Sorry, I should have thought out how I was going to do this. Yeah, but just note that Hualian, my favorite thing about them is that they both have the shittiest, most boomerish sense of humor that is, they find dad jokes to be peak comedy, and no one else finds them, as funny as they find each other. And I love that. And I feel like that's also very true for Wangxian, is that, no one thinks that, Wangji is, funny, except for Wei Wuxian. And Wei Wuxian is, people know that he's funny, but, I feel that no one really understands his humor as well as Lan Wangji, because Lan Wangji has, more context than everyone else, which means that Lan Wangji also is the only one who is able to consistently roll his eyes every time Wei Ying makes another trauma joke. Sorry. Okay. Alright, that was, a lot of rambling. Fic good did, very, very fun. Yes. Okay. Now I'm going to go before I can, show the true extent of my sleep deprivation and say something that leads me to get drug tested. Oh God, sorry. Anyways, thanks for listening, and I hope that you have a splentastic day. That is one of my favorite words, splendid plus fantastic. I don't think it exists in the English vernacular, but, you know, we do. And if it's not daytime, if you're listening to this at night, go the fuck to sleep. Okay, bye.
Hello, and welcome to Bedtime Stories. So this is the first time I've recorded in a couple days. Feels like longer. I have been feeling kind of self-conscious about the way that I sound on the recordings because I started a research project on how to edit for accessibility and wound up in a rabbit hole of voice acting Reddit threads, which was a bad place to be for someone with a speech impediment. And people are talking about making audiobooks and the standards for that. So I will never be making audiobooks professionally based on my observances in that particular channel. But good news, did you know that you can connect a Bluetooth mouse to your iPhone for accessibility reasons and use it to navigate the screen? Handy. But I found out about that a couple weeks ago. But today I had the thought, hey, this works on my phone. Does it work on my tablet? And the answer is yes. I can use my ergonomic mouse with my e-reader. And that is fucking thrilling news to me. So let me say what we're reading. We will be reading Chapter 9 of You Are What You Eat. This has been sitting undone for quite some time, but it's not the longest that I have left something undone for Podfic, so I just want to go ahead and finish this story. Which I don't have pulled up yet, of course. I was so excited to tell you all about the fact that I had the mouse connected. Here we are. Last updated on the 19th of April. Oh my god, it is the 28th of May. How did the time go by like that? Damn. This is the story that I was reading in sort of a round robin fashion with XX Misery Smiles XX. So they read chapter 8, which was the last chapter of the story. And what I'm about to be reading is sort of the prologue. It's called, ironically enough, You Are What You Eat. Author's note. This chapter is pretty disturbing for some people and doesn't affect the plot at all. It's actually a prologue. So if you're not here for horror, please skip it. Reader's note. If you made it through the novel version of Dao Zu Shi and you can handle MXTX's body horror, then this chapter should be doable for you. But if you're not in a good headspace, then be kind and skip it. So this is the quote. I died once. We, of course, came from hell. This is one of the most badass lines in the show, personally. Opinion. Okay, here we go. Before him, you are nothing. Literally. You have no shape, no form, no mind, no memory, no feeling. No thought, no choice, no ignorance, nor end of it. That was in parentheses. I forgot to say. All you are is a horrible thing made of hunger and teeth. They found you deep in the bowels of the earth, and there they kept you, deep below torture chambers and the treasure rooms, dungeons and oubliettes in the cold and damp and wet. That's where they throw him when they don't want him anymore, when they have broken him down into his component parts, his intestines hanging loose from his belly, his bones shattered until his limbs no longer function as limbs, his eyes squished and sightless, his breath coming only in burbling gasps. All he is broken things and pain. Damn. Ouch. You catch him, or he falls on top of you, and for a moment, or a century, you consider your prize. But you are hunger, and he is food. He is warm and leaking. You cannot help consuming. He has digits barely attached, organs that no longer function, strings of skin swirling around him like streamers. So easy to nibble on. You learn him. Not just the taste of his blood and his flesh, not just the sound of his screams and his broken pleas for mercy. You learn the shape of his mouth and the small mole beneath his lower lip. You learn how his bones were once put together. Goddamn noisy trucks, man. You learn how his bones were once put together, before being broken apart. You learn the strength of his muscles and what they were made for, his quick reflexes, his easy grace. The most delicious part of him is his brain. I'm so tempted to make a zombie's brain joke right here. You savor it as long as you can. This part is how he flits from topic to topic. That's the ADHD part. Over here, his accent, a chimera of two cities. Wait, I had to look this up before and I still don't remember. Is it chimera or chimera? Chimera. Fuck, let's look it up again. I will look it up as many times as it takes to learn how to say this fucking word.
Chimera.
Chimera. I was wrong on both guesses. Chimera. Over here, his accent, a chimera of two cities. His motor cortex yields how to draw a bow, how to wield a sword. You learn messy calligraphy. You learn how to flirt, how to charm, how to live for justice, how to live without regrets, how to love. You learn a lot, I guess. He loves so well, this meal of yours. He loves a graceful, kind sister, more perfect than seems possible. He loves an awkward, brave brother who stumbles through expressing affection. He loves a boy who is impossibly beautiful, silent, and still, who is brilliant and brave and fills him with light. He loves so easily, and he is so easy to love. He loves, and he longs, and he dies with the name of the boy on his lips, on your lips, because he is yours now. His body is yours, and his memory is yours. His loves and his, are you? Okay, sorry, I was going so well, and then that happened. His body is yours, and his memory is yours. His loves are yours, and his hatreds are yours. And this is in parentheses. He hates so vividly. His revenge is your revenge. Before him, you were content to stay in the cold hollow in the ground. Before him, you are as cold and still as the stone. But now you burn with anger and love and discontent. With him inside you, parentheses, with you inside him, it is the same. You are the same as him now. So I know this is like the demon eating Wei Wuxian, but my brain took that to a very dirty joke place. It is easy to leave that cold place. A wave of your hand. You have hands now. You have arms to attach hands to. That was in parentheses. And the iron rusts until it is nothing but red dust. A strike of your hand, and the iron breaks. When the guards see you, they begin screaming. You unhinge your jaw and gobble them down. Parentheses. You do not savor them the way you did him. They do not become a part of your mind or your memory. They are not worthy. It doesn't take long to empty the dungeons. Then the floors above them. Men yell and run, and then are silent. Every death gives you a sense of satisfaction. These are people who laughed when you screamed and cried and bled. These are people who burned down your home, who killed your family. Or not them, but people like them, dressed in the same colors, serving the same masters. You think violent thoughts, and then you carry them out. And then this is parentheses. A part of you is crying out in horror at this. A part of you is weeping and begging you to stop. It curdles within you, makes you want to vomit up all the bodies, all the bones and viscera, all the muscles and skin and hair. But there is too much hunger, too much joy in revenge. And then there is a woman crying your name, shielding a boy with her body, begging you in a voice that is so familiar, you open your eyes. And that's the end. Author's note. So I guess I didn't do this very well because there's been some confusion, but here's what I intended with this. The one tortured Wei Wuxian to near death and then threw him in a pit inhabited by an unspecified eldritch creature, who then ate him. The creature was so delighted, parentheses, so in love with his love, by Wei Wuxian, delighted by Wei Wuxian, that it more or less turned into him. Wei Wuxian's memories, his mind, his temperament, spirit, etc. But with some eldritchness, how do you, eldritch creature, eldritchness, I guess, seeping through here and there. Parentheses. If you have someone's memories, his mind, his temperament, his spirit, is there a difference between the two of you? What else is there? When Mo Xuanyu sacrificed his soul for Wei Wuxian, did he or did he not become Wei Wuxian. Might be the other way around. Did Wei Wuxian or not become Mo Xuan Yu? Interesting existential question to debate. Hence the title, You Are What You Eat, Lan Wangji knowing who Wei Wuxian was, Wei Wuxian retaining his memories, his mysterious non-human state, his I was eaten and I was the one being eaten. It was my intention that he was Wei Wuxian, just an eldritch Wei Wuxian. Author, I have to say, you achieved that. I'm vaguely thinking about continuing this as a series, so I've made a series for it. That is called So You Married a Monster. The other series is my new Hard Boys series, more parentheses, which is like my Soft Boys series, but more hardcore. So if you want to read more, subscribe. I also am very encouraged by people urging me to write more, so feel free to demand more in very kind, encouraging language. Another end note. Again, I love me some feedback / constructive criticism / ideas for the future of this fic, so please feel free to comment. This fic is retweetable or retumblrable. This work has a podfic by Irrational Pie, which was made before the one that me and Misery made also. So if you liked the way the story went, and you want to check out another reading, because More Cakes is great, then you should definitely check it out, because Irrational Pie is pretty awesome at podfics. So, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Bedtime Stories, and I hope to be back with another real soon.